What's up, Sifters? We are back. GameFace is back. We're here for episode 402 after taking a little vacation for Labor Day last week. Hopefully you guys missed us. I know I missed one person, and that is Matt Keil. How are you doing, Matt?
All right.
How was your Labor Day? Did you do anything fun?
Did some movies. What do we do? We did a game day. 2 game days. Played a G.I. Joe board game with a bunch of G.I. Joe fans.
Is that new?
Nah, it's been around for a couple of years. But played a G.I. Joe board game with my friend Joe, who's a big G.I. Joe person. I didn't
know that was a thing.
Yeah. He invited all his G.I. Joe fans and me. I like G.I. Joe, but I'm not. Like, he's with G.I. Joe like I'm with Transformers.
Okay.
Like, so he knows Transformers okay. I know G.I. Joe okay. We can figure
Between
it out.
the two of you, you're like the
Right.
Wonder Twins connecting.
Right. But I'm the one of all of those people, the guys that plays the board games.
Uh-huh.
And so the problem is that those games are made by Renegade. They have the license for all the Hasbro stuff. Renegade has some of the worst rule books I've ever seen.
Oh,
in my
really?
entire life.
Which matters a ton.
Just disorganized. Just where do you find this? I don't know. Like some basic stuff's only in the summary in the back of the book. It's just very weird. So it's like the day was like them like we want to play G.I. Joe and Joe trying to figure this out. I'm like, hang on, let me see. Okay, so if I played all these other games, so the mechanism feels like it works like this.
Yeah.
So like we're like stumbling through this. So like the box says the game takes like an hour to 90 minutes to play, and it took us 6 hours. Took us 6 hours to beat Destro.
Oh man.
And it was fun.
Good times.
But it was just like
it was fun.
It was fun, but
That's
it was
cool.
just like, you know, we're all sitting around this like table trying to figure out this stupid. Almost like if you just like we're trying to figure out what it meant to be the leader in a mission, and like I found the only place I could find in the rulebook that says what the leader does, why it's important that someone is the leader, was in the caption of a photo of a battle in a sidebar in the section about battles. The part where they tell you someone has to be the leader is in the turn order part of the rulebook, but they don't tell you why you want to be the. So it's just stuff like that.
Yeah.
Saw a bunch of things. I saw Alien Romulus. And,
how was it? Not as good as people say, huh?
Nah, first half's good. First half where it's trying to do Alien is good. The second half where it tries to do Aliens is not. But it's better. I mean, it's the third best one. let's put it that way.
Movies are starting to come around. It feels like people are starting to go back to the theater finally.
A little bit. I mean, it's just, you know, I saw Beetlejuice, which I have almost zero reaction to. It was purely a movie.
That's
that
a movie,
I saw.
All right.
It wasn't like I can't recall a movie that was less than the sum of its parts. The way Beetlejuice 2 is, the way like it's just a bunch of things. Like it's like you know, there's been all these pitches for a sequel to Beetlejuice over the years, and it's like they just used them all. It's got 4 stories in it, and none of them go anywhere. Like it's just a series, and like you can't have Beetlejuice be like, you know, because Beetlejuice's person, because we rewatched the first movie before we went to the theater to see that, and like
I hardly remember anything about it. Honestly.
I mean, I remember I liked it a lot when I was a kid. You know,
I liked it too,
and
it was popular,
and I knew it very well. But watching it again, it's like, oh, Beetlejuice's only personality is he is a sex pervert. Underage groomer, basically.
Yeah,
his story is he literally sexually molests Gina Davis, and then he goes to a whorehouse, and then he tries to marry a 16-year-old. Like that's Beetlejuice. That's what he does in that movie. So you can't do that in a 2024 sequel, obviously. So they struggle to kind of figure out what Beetlejuice's new personality is.
What is he? What does he do?
And Burton can't quite bring himself to make him the character from the cartoon, which I think was a more interesting, better version of Beetlejuice. And so Beetlejuice is just kind of like a used car salesman that the rest of the story happens around.
Interesting.
And like Willem Dafoe's in there as a ghost cop who has almost no involvement with the rest of the story. Cop. Monica Bellucci is supposedly the big villain, his ex-wife, who's in like 4 scenes and says like 3 lines. Like it's just nothing happens.
Yeah.
Like Jenna Ortega has like her a storyline that kind of aborts itself halfway through the movie that could have been a whole movie. Like I could have made you a whole movie out of any of.
Anything but the stuff that actually happened in the whole movie.
The only thing I'll give them is they came up with a very funny and clever way to get around the idea of not showing Jeffrey Jones's face. Because you can't cast him in anything anymore.
Yeah.
And otherwise, like,
and that's it.
Yeah,
that's
about
it.
And it was an hour and 45 minutes, and it felt like 2:15.
Oh,
like I just thought it was so. It was one of those movies where you come out and you're like, okay, and like, what am I supposed to get out of that? I wasn't super entertained. I didn't come out with any new ideas or new feelings.
I kind of figured you might walk out of that movie like that, though.
Yeah. I mean, I'd compare it to Ghostbusters Frozen Empire in a way, in the sense that you watch it and you're like, there's no reason for this to exist.
Yeah. What edification did I gain
but
from this?
But Beetlejuice is a better movie than Frozen Empire. Like, Frozen Empire is way more messy and scattered and doesn't know what it's doing half the time.
Yeah.
Beetlejuice has a lot of purpose behind what's happening, because Burton is a confident and experienced director. Mm-hmm. But in the end, it just doesn't come together in anything. It's just like, I walked out of it, and I just, the credits rolled, and I'm like, I don't know what to say about any of that. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I should like it or I should hate it, and I don't. It's like
ambivalent.
It's just sort of matter, and I struggle to think I will ever watch it again. Whereas, like, the first movie is like this really lovely little self-contained, unique thing, and this one is a weird,
doesn't
sprawling,
have the magic.
I mean, it goes all over the town. It's all these different characters moving around. It's like, whereas the first one is like, it's just about the Maitlands, basically. Yeah. And I don't know.
It was better for it.
Catherine O'Hara is great, because Catherine O'Hara is always great. Winona Ryder is very good. Like, there's a lot of good performances, and Jenna Ortega is good. Jenna Ortega is always good.
Well, it's like you said, the sum of its parts
but
are
it's just
lesser.
there's all these strong performances here, and they just don't come together into anything. Willem Dafoe's having a great time. Willem Dafoe's having a much better time than I was. Basically. I'm glad he had fun, because I like seeing Willem Dafoe happy.
Yeah,
that's
which doesn't happen very often. It doesn't feel like.
Oh, I think he is in real life.
In real life,
he seems like a happy guy in real. But no, he plays very angry people most of the time.
In films, yeah.
But just go watch Streets of Fire instead.
You went to see a lot of
better
films
Willem Dafoe
over the break.
Yeah. And did I see something else? I don't remember.
That seems like a lot. Yeah.
Well, I did see. Eventually, I'm going to get to Strange Darling, which I've been told not to find anything out about.
Yeah.
Although one thing I do know about it is that the DP, the cinematographer, is Giovanni Ribisi.
Oh wow.
Which I didn't. Apparently, he's very good at it. I'm just like, it's always nice when you see the actors like
crossing over,
like, spreading out and doing completely different things,
doing our jobs.
Yeah, because I like him.
Work.
He's a good actor, but it's cool to see him do different things.
Yeah. Well, we are back from our Labor Day break. I went to the East Coast for Labor Day, and I took California's weather with me to the East Coast. It was beautiful there the whole time I was there. It was like 76 degrees, no humidity.
Yeah, it was 110 here.
And then I come here, it's like 100, and it's been brutal here. Like, the air conditioning in our apartment can't keep up. So our apartment has been 80 to 85 degrees for the last week.
Yeah, the air conditioning here keeps up.
Yeah,
but I can hear it working. I mean, I'm like,
ours just runs. It doesn't stop running all day.
But mine usually will run and stop and come back on a couple hours later. On this, it would run and stop and then come on like 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
Ours
just runs all day. Yeah. Never shuts off. So our electric bill's going to be insane. But anyway, I was on the East Coast. I did a fantasy draft, saw the family, saw a bunch of my friends. And then on the way back from my fantasy football draft in Philadelphia, I was driving down the turnpike, and I hopped off the turnpike, and I met with one of y'all. I met with a sifter, Mike's Q. And I don't know if he's in chat today, but I got off the turnpike, drove a little bit, and met him for lunch. And we did take a picture together, but I don't know if he ever posted it on social media. And I don't see him in here yet. But anyway, I got to meet another sifter in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Actually, it was a little town called Middletown where we met. But he lives in Lancaster, which is about 35 or 40 minutes from Carlisle, where my family's from. So on the way back from Philly, I just jumped off the turnpike. We went and had lunch, and I got to meet one of you guys. And as I always say, I'm down to hang out with all of you guys and girls. If you're ever in LA and you want to hang out, hit me up, send me a DM on SIFTD. I'm down to meet up and have a beer or have lunch or something like that. You guys mean a lot to me, is what I'm getting at. Like, I am totally cool with meeting you guys and hanging out with you guys. I don't take for granted any of you. Every single one of you matter to me. And if there's any chance for us to get together and meet, I will absolutely do it, as long as it's not going to totally destroy my day. And on that note, my flight out there, you may have seen it on Twitter as well. My flight on the way out there was a nightmare. We were fine, and we get to D.C., and there's a storm sitting on top of the airport, and it won't leave. So we go in circles around D.C. for 90 minutes. Our plane runs out of fuel, and we have to land in Baltimore. We get to Baltimore, they're like, we're going to refuel and we'll get right back up in the air. That never happened. We deplaned. We sat in Baltimore for 7 hours before they finally got us over to D.C. We were supposed to get to my mom's town, Carlisle, at 4 p.m. I ended up getting there at 6 a.m. 6 a.m. It was a nightmare. And the problem was I only had like 4 or 5 days, honestly, that I was there. And so I lost like a whole day. And so then my whole schedule was all screwed up. And anyway, ultimately everything was fine. My vacation got a little bit screwed up, but I did have a good time with my friends and my family and kind of a good time being off work. But Matt, I'll be honest with you, like I really only had Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off. I still worked for all day Friday. I worked all day Tuesday. I worked all day Wednesday. Then I flew back Wednesday. So for me, still, I ended up working most of the time. You guys probably saw there was content flowing through our channels. We were still publishing stuff at SIFTD.net. So I didn't have that much of a vacation, but it was still nice to get away, even if it was for like a 3-day weekend. So thanks for your patience, guys. Obviously, I kept working as much as I could, but the site wasn't update as often as it would be normally, so I appreciate your patience with all that. But it was good to hang out with yet another one of you guys. And again, I'm willing to do it if you guys come to LA or if you guys are in Central PA or wherever. I'll try to hook up with you guys and have lunch or a beer or something like that. So overall, I guess it was okay. The best part, honestly, though, Matt, was coming back and having all these awesome games to play. We have an awesome show for you guys today. I have been playing 3 really great games over the last 4 days, and a 4th one, not so great, but probably one you're still interested in. So we're going to talk today about, we're going to talk about the PlayStation 5 Pro, which was just announced this morning. And you guys have had a lot to say about that in the chat already. We're going to get to that in a minute. We're going to talk about that, and that's just in our headlines. And we're going to talk about Concord being shut down, and then we're going to talk about games. We're going to talk about Astro Bot. We're going to talk about Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. We're going to talk about Call of Duty Black Ops 6. And then for the last game, we're going to talk about Harry Potter Quidditch Champions. So we have a loaded show. And the good news is we don't have a ton of headlines. Believe it or not, even though we haven't done a show in 2 weeks, there hasn't been a ton of news stories. Couple big ones, but not a lot of small ones.
I would argue one of the biggest news stories of the decade.
Which one?
Concord is the biggest bomb in video game history.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if it's complete. We'll get to it. But anyway, we have an awesome show for you guys. But before we get into the headlines...
Not business related. It is business related if you were a shareholder at Sony, I guess.
Yeah.
But, that's a pretty big... So there wasn't really much else to eclipse that until the PS5 Pro.
Until this morning.
Yeah, it's like, what could we possibly be angrier about than this? Oh.
Yeah, Rock and Roll 458. Absolutely gutted. I won't be able to play Concord on the PS5 Pro. You don't know that yet. We'll talk about it in a minute. J. Reed Vic, thank you for gifting Tier 1 subs to our audience. That is awesome. Everybody, wow. J. Reed Vic, look at you, man. That's incredible. Thank you, brother. That's awesome. I just got a payout. EA owed me. We're making it rain subs today. Thank you, J. Reed Vic. That's what it's all about, man. Pushing it forward. Onto other people. You get something, I always say, if I win the lottery, I'll keep $2 million for myself and just give the rest away. Thank you, J. Raid Vic. That's awesome, man. I'm sure all the people who got the subs appreciate it. Matter of fact says Shane always has crazy airport experiences. I'll just be honest with you. I just feel like everybody is having crazy airport experiences.
Yeah, I think if you go to the East Coast, you're just rolling those dice.
Yeah.
At any time.
It's more expensive than ever and less reliable than ever.
It wasn't even snowing.
No, it was just thunder, and the storm just sat on top of Washington Dulles. It wouldn't leave. And it sat there for 5 hours. There was nothing else all around it on the radar. And it was just this storm that just sat right on top of the airport and wouldn't leave. And we just sat there in Baltimore for 7 hours waiting. Love you too, J. Reed Vic. Thanks again, brother. Mitchell Ness, you didn't when I was there last. What? You were in LA last? I wasn't able to make time? I try. Sometimes I'm just too busy, unfortunately. What else we got here? Commander Fett, thank you for Twitch Prime. As always, if you guys want us to see stuff, go at SIFTD Games. That way we can pick it out of chat. AJ the Legend, what's up, brother? Haven't seen you on our live stream for a while. Hope you're doing good. In fact, I think the last time we talked to you, you said your mom was having some issues. I hope she's worked through those okay. Good to see you back, though, brother. What else we got? Lesteved giving out some tears. Thank you for the subs, Lesteved. Hope you're doing good, too. Nightwing says, Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday to you. What else we got here? I think I saw some Twitch Prime. Talimper, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. We got any more here? Rock and Roll 458, thank you for Twitch Prime. Shan Gamer, is that short for Shane Gamer? 1981, thank you. Mr. 18 Chung, thank you. Laugh at You, thank you. That's a funny name. The Link Between, thank you. Draylock, so this is from when people thought there was no show last Tuesday. Eric Carmena, Steelers kicking field goals all season long, Shane. They won, though, didn't they? And that's all that matters. They won their first game. I don't know if they're going to win too many more this season, but they did win their first game. Okay, I think that's...
Yeah, we're coming up on level 5.
Oh, yeah, look at the... Yeah, wow. We haven't hit the hype train for a long time. It's been like over a year since
we've had some minor hype trains.
Yeah, but we haven't hit like the ultimate like we were for a long time there. This is for Vidya Games. Thank you for Twitch Prime. Here's some asset to game. Slight name change. Your good friend U-Gamers is back. U-Gamers, what's up, man? I haven't seen you in a long time. Good to see you, man. You were a part of our site at the beta and everything, and you stuck around for a while. I haven't seen you in forever, man. I hope you're doing good, and welcome back. I wonder if the PS5 Pro brought you back to watch the show. Mom is doing much better from her knee surgery. That's good to hear, AJ. Really good to hear. What else we got? The Retro Modern Gamer. An airplane today got its tail taken off by another plane on the tarmac in Atlanta. There's all kinds of goofy stuff going on. Planes taking off and almost hitting each other. Like, I don't know what's going on with air traffic control, but...
You should try driving in L.A.
Seriously. Yep. So anyway, it's good to be back doing the show. And again, we have an awesome show lined up for you guys, but I think it's time for us to get on to our headlines. And I'll give you one guess what we're going to talk about first. The big news that broke this morning. The PlayStation 5 Pro has finally been revealed, Matt. And it's pretty much what we all expected for the most part, because a lot of this stuff leaked out before we actually got a chance to see it for real. Like, we knew the form factor leaked out like a couple weeks ago. The funny part is we kind of knew the specs like months ago, but then today... Maybe they've updated it since, but they still haven't announced the specs.
Yeah, I mean, they gave percentages of things, but we don't know what actual hardware is.
Yeah, they didn't share what the GPU was, what the CPU was, how much RAM is going to be in it, what kind of RAM is going to be in it. Instead, we just got 45% faster rendering, whatever that means. So there was basically 3 tenets that they wanted to follow. They wanted to add more powerful ray tracing that provides more dynamic reflection and refraction of light, which allows the rays to be cast at double and at triple sometimes the speeds of the current PS5. They also have like their own special kind of upscaling thing with AI that they're calling like PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution. Matt, would you rather just have like DLSS or something off the shelf for this?
I mean, in the sense that like I don't see the need. I mean, developers have enough to implement with all these different, frame generation things without adding another one when they do the PlayStation 5 version. And it makes me think that this is just going to be like something that really only works well on in-house games.
I mean, right, some of these comparisons are doing, I really struggle to see the difference.
I mean, I see it. Like, all those comparisons make sense to me. Like, the Last of Us thing, like, it's 30 versus 60, sure. The problem is not that the hardware isn't doing what they say it does. It does.
It does,
but like the price is the problem.
It's so subtle. Like, look at Ratchet here. Like,
well,
you can see he does look better on the right. Yeah, like his ear there's not the stair stepping, but it's so.
But he's
subtle.
Also not talking about Ratchet. He's talking about the stuff in the background and the crowd and the LOD and all that.
But I don't see much of a change with that either. Do you?
Yeah. Well, when he zooms in, it's very obvious. But like, are you going to notice that when you're playing the game? Probably not.
I mean, that was the zoom in.
No, that's the zoom in. And he's talking about, like, back there. And there is a difference, but it's like, is that a $700 difference between what you were playing before?
It's so
I don't think so.
I don't either, man.
Like, it's like buying another graphics card in the same,
PC.
Yeah, same series, basically.
Right. It's like getting the TI.
Yeah.
Basically. And then the third thing...
Like, it feels like going from, like, a 4080 to a 4090.
Yeah.
Which is, like, yeah, a pricey upgrade, but at the same time, I don't know. Like, yeah, this is pretty much what I thought it would be, also because we're in diminishing returnsville and have
Big
been
time.
for about 2 generations now.
Yeah.
And that's just going to continue. Like, the difference between 6,000 polygons and 60,000 is not really
it's
very
not like
noticeable.
It used to be. When you went from, like, 60 to 6,000.
Yeah. But like, and look, looking at this looks good. It looks about like what, it looks comparable to some kind of some kind of PC setting, which is good. But the problem is you get to the price and like, I don't remember what we were saying. Like, there's no way to talk about any of this stuff without acknowledging that the end of the, like, he doesn't even say what the price is. Just the screen comes up at the end like a fucking flashbang and they all disappear.
He buried the lead. And we're kind of burying it now too, because we didn't get to what the most important part of this is. And that is that this thing costs $700, 800 euro in Europe, 700.
Which works out to more like $900.
And 700 pounds.
Yeah, again, in Europe it's $900.
Yeah. And not only that,
which is, by the way, adjusted for inflation, the price of the PS5.
Right.
At the time.
Yeah.
Or PS3, rather. The PS3 in 2006, adjusted for inflation, would be like about $930.
Yeah. This thing does not come with a disc drive for $700. Mm-hmm. You have to buy it separately, which is like $80.
Which is a problem for me because I use the PS5 as my Blu-ray player.
Yeah. I want a disc drive.
It's a great Blu-ray player.
I just want a drive, period.
I've never put a game in.
Oh, I do all the time.
Outside maybe like a couple I got early for something. Mm-hmm. But like, I use the PlayStation Blu-ray player is excellent.
It's great,
and so I use that for movies if I'm going to watch on Blu-ray, and I need to keep that. Like, I'm not going to keep two PS5s hooked up if I have a Pro, so basically I'm locked in on that.
Yeah.
If I get one.
Then the third thing was the better GPU, and basically PlayStation said that they're upgrading the GPU that has 67% more compute units than the current PS5 console,
which sounds like a fake. Stat.
And 28% faster memory. What the hell does that even mean?
It means the memory's faster.
Right, but like 28%? Like,
well, I understand what it means. It's just like, that doesn't really like, the problem is not really that these numbers don't make sense. They do make sense. That's what hardware, the performance is the performance, but it's like, well, on what games? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what instances are you talking about? Like, and how well will that hold true for future games? And like, but it's like, and everything runs so different and so weird now. Like, everybody waits around for day one reactions to like how everything runs on each system. That's why Digital Foundry rose to prominence, is because performance is so unreliable on all these things and all these different systems, and you never know. It's like, just because something runs well on Xbox doesn't mean it's going to run well on PS5, and vice versa. And sometimes the PC version's borked, and sometimes the PS5 version's borked, and somebody's like, and like, so like, you can, on paper, it can run at those percentages increased over the vanilla model, but like, in actual use case scenarios, we're yet again going to have to wait game by game. So like, I don't really, and also this is the same pitch as the PS5 originally was.
The original PS5.
It's the same thing.
The
it's like, look, it runs faster than the PS4 and PS4 Pro and all these ways.
Percentage.
And you no longer need to choose between performance and graphics fidelity mode. And it's like, you said that 4 years ago.
And here we are.
All we've done is choose between performance and fidelity mode.
He also left out a bunch of stuff that he didn't, like, that you had to go to the website to find out the hard drive, which is a 2 terabyte SSD.
Also, I really couldn't get over how much he sounds like Ryan Reynolds. He sounds like Ryan Reynolds with no jokes.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to him, and it's like, oh my God, it's Dana Carvey with Ryan Reynolds. Cerny, I respect Cerny, but he's a weird choice for a presenter.
Yeah, because he is their hardware guru, so I know why. I think
right, but you didn't need a hardware guru for this because no fucking actual hardware shit was discussed.
They use him because the otaku love him. That's why.
I think the shareholders probably like him too because he looks professional.
Yeah. He doesn't look like the typical game developer, and all the PlayStation fanboys.
And he's never mentioned Cyberworld.
Right. So he hasn't completely flown off the reservation yet. They also mentioned that there will be better image quality for PS4 games. There will be 8,500 backwards compatible games on day one. Console covers are coming for the PlayStation 5 Pro, just like they're available for PS5. And as we mentioned earlier, you have to add the Blu-ray drive for $80, and they don't include a stand either, which doesn't make any sense. And you have to buy, if you want a stand, you have to buy the stand separately for $30. So
now I've seen that this is just for the nice metal stand, and that the plastic stand will still work.
So if you want to sell your PS5, you got to keep the stand and not send it with the person.
Maybe it includes the plastic stand, and they're just talking about the metal stand.
That could be
because the stand they're showing it with in the product shots is the metal,
right?
Like plate stand.
We shouldn't be guessing this, Matt.
No,
like, this should have been.
And I googled that and looked around for a bit before we came up for the show, and like I couldn't find any actual information on that.
Yeah.
Like, no one bothered to ask, or maybe no one has responded yet.
Yeah. So it's $700 Plus, you're spending an extra $110, maybe only $80, for the same stuff you got in the base PS5.
And from what I saw, I read or was told, I can't remember now, but I was told this week that they are going to do a version that includes the disc drive later.
Okay.
In mid-December.
Where maybe you only have to spend an extra $50 if they pack it in.
I don't know what a price on that would be. I mean, odds are they're not going to give you any. I mean, they're charging this much. I mean, I can't remember exactly what we said when we were speculating about this early in the year.
Actually.
But I'm pretty sure we said anything over $550 was crazy.
Deal breaker, yeah. I think maybe we said 600 max.
6 max, yeah. If, with a disc drive,
right,
or something.
Yeah, assuming there was a drive, but there's not. So, the next question becomes, Matt, who is this for? Because you're getting into like a territory now with this pricing where it's like, should you just build a PC?
Yeah, I mean, you could for like about double the money, you could build a better PC,
a really good PC for double the money.
You wouldn't have to pay. You don't have to pay for online. You'd have a more flexible thing. You'd have to wait another year.
And you can use it for everything.
You have to wait another year for the games, but whatever.
Who buys this? Other than the crazy PlayStation.
I mean, I have a theory. I mean, right now, crazy PlayStation people, sure. But come next year, when the only place you can play GTA 6 in 60 frames per second is the PS5 Pro, we'll see how everybody feels then.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it could.
That's the barrel they're gonna have. Nobody's thinking about it right now, but the best way to play GTA 6 is gonna be on this thing.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's no PC version on the horizon. A year at least, probably more.
Well, the mistake for Microsoft here is that it also has 3 consoles coming out before the end of the year, and they're all the same power. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It did not bump up their performance with these new... Now,
no, probably because they would have had to charge something like this, and they knew that was crazy.
Right.
But only Sony has the ball. Meanwhile, Nintendo's over here. It's just like, what the fuck?
Wow, we're going to sell our Switch 2 for $400. And
we were thinking 400 was crazy. These people are out of their minds.
Seriously, though. Right now, Nintendo is doing a happy dance. It is like, holy crap, we were freaking out about charging $400 for Switch 2, and now we're like half the price of the PlayStation 5.
I mean, it could not be more obvious that there are two, the Switch and the PlayStation are not...
in different
They're not
ecosystems.
Competing with each other.
Yeah.
They're not in the same universe.
Nintendo, I think, erroneously believes that they are, though.
Nintendo likes to puff themselves up that way, but it's not the same thing.
It's not true.
It's not. Nintendo is, I mean... The one similarity between them at this point is like you're probably buying both of them because you like that company's games and want to play them. Yeah. And that's the only place to do that in a timely manner.
Look at how much it is in Japan. 120,000 yen.
Yeah. I mean, the yen is really weak right now.
It's really weak. But still, dude, 120,000 yen. That's like a G in US dollars. That's crazy. Wow.
And I wonder what it's going to be in some other like in Brazil. I think it's Brazil. It's like the normal PS5 is like $800. Mm-hmm. What's this thing going to cost?
Well, don't forget, in Japan they've increased the price of the PlayStation 5 twice now. Already. I am baffled by this. I really have no idea what the strategy here is. Like, why? You would think at this point, PlayStation would be making money on each piece of hardware sold of the base PS5. So, yeah, maybe there's a little bit of a wider profit margin on this new model. I'll say one thing, though, Matt. We were wondering if they would discontinue the base PlayStation 5 once it's launched. And now, I believe, there's no way in hell they're going to discontinue the base PS5. There's just no way.
I mean, the price might indeed be because they're like, well, we could either take a big hit on selling this below cost and have it be the new standard PS5, or we could... charge what we want and leave the $500 one there as like if you don't want to pay the extra $200 here
or more if you want a disc drive.
Buy the broken one.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Are you
this.
A pro or are you an amateur PS5?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that'll get the fanboys to buy them for sure. But they're what, like 5 million, 6 million, maybe.
Way less than that.
You think?
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to watch, but...
I mean, in terms of console warriors, you're talking about hundreds of thousands.
You think?
Yeah. You can't overestimate how the extremely online crowd. And one of the reasons I know that is because every time those arguments happen on Twitter and various places, it's all the same fucking people.
No, you're right. It is the same people. And it's cycling back around.
I see them over and over again after a while. And it's just like, yeah, these are all the same people arguing about the same shit. And I don't know how they have any time to play anything, and I think they probably don't.
Yeah. I'm wondering what you guys are thinking about this. I'd really want to check out chat to see if any of you guys would potentially buy this thing. Obi-Wan 9000, I was in the market to buy a PS5 this Christmas, but after this, nah. I mean, would you still buy the base model, though, if they keep it available? I think they are going to keep it available.
Yeah, I don't see... There's no reason to get rid of the base model at this price.
Yeah. Rock and Roll 458 says, this reminds me of Apple's model with iPhones to a degree. There's a base iPhone version, but also a Pro version that they try to upsell you on with some bells and whistles. I think we kind of figured that out back with the PS4 Pro, honestly.
And the prices are similar.
Yep, scaling. Yeah. Squishy Muffin says, I see the split being 90-10 this time around. PS4 to PS4 Pro is 80-20. Really, it was only 80-20.
Yeah,
I thought they sold more PS4 Pros than that.
No, I've seen that stat before.
Because the price discrepancy wasn't as bad.
No, but it was also
between the PS4 and the PS4 Pro.
It was also in a worse time.
Yeah,
to some degree.
I think the upgrade of the PS4 Pro is way more drastic. Because you went from 1080p to checkerboard 4K. Mm-hmm. And that checkerboard 4K worked pretty good. Like, it made games look pretty good.
I would say it's the equivalent.
You think so?
I think they are.
I think as far as like investment in money and processing,
power.
But the end result,
remember,
I don't think
there's not a new CPU in this thing.
It doesn't seem like it.
So
do we know that?
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
If it was a new CPU, I think they would have said that. The only explanation for why they did not tell us the new CPU.
Is it the same?
Is because the same thing, they just overclocked it.
You may be right. J. Reed Vic says, I'm mulling a PlayStation as a second console to pair with my Series X. Wow. I'm sorry. Almost certainly I'm not paying $700. We'll wait to see how devs support it, in particular GTA. I mean, devs are going to support it.
I mean, this is a GTA machine.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
Quickster says, nothing in that presentation was a reason to upgrade from a base PS5. The Legacy says, the price just tells next gen is far away. That is another thing, yeah.
This generation is going to last 10 years easily.
Yep. What else we got here?
Or maybe it never ends. Like
it just stays PlayStation 5 for 20 years.
I mean, the iPhone model might be the most relevant comment brought up today.
Yeah. I kind of thought when they hit iPhone X or 10 that they would just stop then, but they didn't.
You cannot underestimate the appeal of a higher number.
Yeah. I mean, Xbox, I think, could learn that lesson with naming its consoles.
And notice how many times in this, even just this 9-minute presentation, he says new console, new console,
you're right.
console, over and over.
Yeah. Cinetyke says, I wanted more performance in the base console, but at this point, I'll save the money and focus exclusively on my PC. Again, like, you're going to get to $800 or $900 for this thing. Like, if you have an old PC sitting around, you can absolutely dust that thing off and get it up to modern standards with $900. I just did it for like $1,100.
And it crossed over. It's like the audience for this probably already has a pretty capable PC if you care about performance that much.
Yeah, probably so.
So it's hard to see where the target is with this thing at that price.
Raphael Michael wonders if the increase in price was because of the 2 terabyte SSD. I mean, it definitely adds to the price.
Part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, all of a sudden, the exact size of the SSD is not integral to the performance of the console. I can't help but notice.
Yeah. Swanlin asks, how much do you think Switch 2 will be after seeing this? We kind of hinted at it earlier. I think it'll be around $400.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to affect Nintendo's price.
Yeah, I don't think it has any impact on it at all.
Nintendo doesn't give a shit.
Mega Drive Guy, thank you for Twitch Prime. Appreciate it. AJ the Legend asks, do you think physical game packaging will stay better on PS5 Pro? Yeah, I think it will. But then does game packaging even matter anymore?
Yeah, I don't remember the last time.
I mean, it doesn't have a disk drive by default, so...
Like, every time I think about go looking for, like, physical games, they're just not... They don't have them.
Everyone's just like, it's just too much money. J. Reed Vic is like, $800 is a lot of money by any standard.
I haven't seen anyone interested in buying this or enthusiastic about buying this except Colin Moriarty.
Oh, he was excited for it?
Of course he is.
He is a bit of a PlayStation stan.
He's a PlayStation stan, and to him, that's a flex. Because he's like, oh, I can afford it. I can afford it, but I'm also not a fucking idiot when it comes to money. Like, I don't want to buy this.
Yeah.
Like, what's the fucking point? Like, that's too much money for this.
Retro Modern Gamer says, Digital Foundry said the CPU was going to be the same for game compatibility reasons. That makes sense, actually.
Yeah, that would be smart. Or
Climax 83 is way too expensive. J. Reed Vic says, I can afford it, but it just makes no sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Vincent says they confirm the CPU is the same in the CNET hands-on.
What am I getting at? I mean, again, when it comes down to it, when it's like, if GTA 6 is a markedly superior experience on that thing, that's different.
It'll put it over the top.
That'll move some units.
Yep.
But right now, for like this year, it's like, I guarantee you have better things to do with $800.
I do, for sure. Luke TG1 says, I got Space Marine 2 on disc. I still buy a lot of games on disc.
And also, let's wait around and see what the performance actually is like. Like, it's cool. Okay, Last of Us 2, remade, remastered, re-won again for the third time, runs real well. Great. Spider-Man 2 runs real well. Great. I was going to say, what is the big new holiday game run at? But there is no big new holiday game, as far as I know.
That would convince you to buy hardware.
So what?
I don't know.
What are we?
Timing is also strange.
Like, the first real litmus test of this thing is going to be GTA 6.
It feels like it. Yep.
And the problem you're going to run into there is GTA 6 is going to pop up and be like, yeah, the only way to play GTA 6 as intended, as you know, in the best form is going to be, and all of a sudden you're not be able to get a PS5 Pro.
Right. And then people maybe don't buy GTA 6 because they can't get the console to run it. Well, it'll be interesting to watch. Swanland says, I waited on the PS4 Pro for the Red Dead 2 bundle so I could see the same people doing that for GTA 6.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be really smart, is to bundle
A GTA 6 bundle would be smart.
Yeah. Hail to Starscream says, I'm not enthusiastic at all, but I'll buy it. Aussie Brit 2000, thank you for Twitch Prime. Simply because I wanted to play the version of all future exclusives at launch. I mean, I'm going to buy it. I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm going to buy it. But I would, if I didn't have to do it for my job, I absolutely would not buy it. That's just the truth.
Like, that's probably where I'm going to end up, and I'm going to call myself an idiot while I do it. But, like, yeah, if I wasn't doing this...
If I can get one.
If I wasn't doing this show, I would not buy this thing.
Squishy Muffin says, you really can build a better PC for a PS5 Pro price. Especially if you go use GPU. Yeah, if you go on eBay and get yourself a GPU, you can definitely do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
The only downside is waiting a year for the games. But, like, how much is that worth to you? I mean, $700. It's a crazy price.
It is crazy. I mean,
it's 3DO. It's what the 3DO cost back in the day. Obviously, that's more like $1,800 or something now. But, like, it's just beyond. It's over a certain line, and I think I don't know if we all knew what that line was, but I think everybody who saw that price instantly like, no, that's too much.
It's like it's one of those cases where I don't know what it is until I see it, and once I see it, I'll know. And this is one of those cases.
Porn and PlayStation prices. You know when you see it.
I don't see a Silk Shake says, don't waste your money, Shane. I'm going to play the games in the best possible fidelity for you guys, honestly.
Just save that receipt and throw it in the write-off column.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget that because we do this for a living, we can write stuff off. Now, when you write stuff off, you actually get like 1/8 of a penny.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Like, people are like, oh, you get it for free. No, you get like 1/8 of the value of the item or whatever, which is better than nothing, but you do get some money back. Retro Modern Gamer says, they said PS5 Pro actually will do 8K this time. We have to have developers making games in 8K first. That's really the problem. Threadzilla says, weirdly enough, $599 would have sounded much better. Well, yeah, because it's like $200 cheaper.
Because $599 in 2006 is $930 now. Yeah. So, this is pretty much once you factor in the extra cost of the drive and tax, this is pretty much $599 equivalent to 2024.
It is, yeah.
It's almost the same price.
It's a little more, actually.
In terms of value.
Yeah, it's crazy. I really, overwhelmingly, everybody's rejected it.
And at the very least, I will say this. At the very least, this is a better piece of hardware in 2024 than the PS3 was in 2006.
I'd agree with that. Yep. There's a couple people, I'm assuming you guys are wealthy or you have a lot of disposable income, that said they're going to get it. But I don't see a single person in our chat that says...
no one's excited.
Nobody's excited. No one thinks it's a great idea or a great deal.
There's people who performance is important enough to them that they are going to choose the best performance option. And they can afford it. But, like, none of us are going to be happy doing it. Yeah. Like, that's a ridiculous
I feel like I'm getting ripped off.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no doubt.
But you're going to be able to see that guy in the back of the stands in the parade clear as day.
When you zoom in on your TV to that one little section
like, motherfucker, these glasses are 8 months old and I still can't see shit properly now. I'm not going to be able to tell what the leaf in the background looks like. And I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the PlayStation 5 Pro. It even mentioned that it's coming out on November 7th. So just a couple months to wait here for it before it comes out. So if you are interested, you might want to start thinking about how you're going to get one. Because my guess is Sony knows as well as we do that this was not going to go over great.
Yeah.
And my guess is it's not.
I noticed there was no pre-order here immediately.
Exactly.
Like, announcement at the end of that presentation. It was just like, $700, buy.
You see, they didn't even say it.
No.
They're just like, we're going to put up the splash screen.
Slate came up, cut to black. Like, you're done.
See you later. And so my guess is that PlayStation is not going to manufacture a ton of these. My guess would be like 2 million at launch, roughly.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you make is going to sit there until next spring or whenever GTA
comes out. Other than people like us buying them. And there might be 2 million of us, enough rich people to buy them, or people who just need it.
Probably, but like, you know, I'm not saying everyone. Most rich people also know what money is worth.
Yeah. That's how they became rich.
And there's a line between, like, I can afford it, who cares, fuck it. And
you're taking
that's not
advantage
worth
of me?
that.
Yeah.
You know? Except when it comes to boats. I don't know boats aren't worth anything.
Yeah.
Unless you got a little boat you fish out or whatever. But, like, the people that have the big luxury boats, like, that is just a giant hole to throw money in.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of that, by the way, is so you don't get taxed on it.
Oh, yeah. Because it's sitting in the water. It's not technically...
Right. And the whole point, I'm not kidding about this, by the way. The whole point, the reason a lot of people have boats that are wealthy people is because you don't get taxed on it. But it's literally, at least that way, I'm spending the money on me and no one else is getting it. And that is one of the shittiest things I have ever heard. When I found that out when I was younger, I'm like, that's just shitty.
That sucks.
That's just like, I'm gonna burn it or like drown it, basically. I'm gonna drown all my money in this stupid thing I go on twice a year.
Just so I'm not giving the money to somebody else.
Just so someone else doesn't benefit as a society from... I'd rather spend that money scraping barnacles off something that I mostly think is annoying.
Right. Or paying somebody else to scrape the barnacles off of it.
Right. Oh, of course. Well, that's what the money's for.
Yep. So anyway, that's the PlayStation 5 Pro. It is coming November 7th. It is like $700 here, unless you want a disc drive and a stand. It's like €700 or €800 in Europe. It's £700 in the UK. Or is that just Britain? The pound?
Yes, that would be UK.
UK. So
the UK is the...
And in Japan, you might as well just buy a new car instead of the PS5 Pro.
The UK is the country, does not include Ireland. Great Britain is the group of islands, does include Ireland, as I recall.
And Ireland's price would be the pound?
No, Ireland is
Euro.
Yeah. Ireland is its own
That's what I thought.
thing.
Yeah, okay. So anyway...
Do not make the mistake of thinking Ireland is part of the UK.
That's a problem.
They'll kill you.
I know. You're right.
And they'll be right.
Yeah. So it feels like we waited all this time for this to happen, and now it's here, and everybody's like, oh, that sucks. It really stinks when you look forward to something and you're disappointed by it ultimately. So
I mean, I was expecting to be a little disappointed by the performance bump. Mm-hmm. I did not expect to be incensed by the price to that degree.
I almost didn't believe it.
I was thinking 600-ish, maybe 650.
I thought that'd be pushing the envelope. But I was like, well, PlayStation's already been funky with inflation in other countries and territories, and so I thought it probably was going to be more than the base PS5. I thought that would be stupid, but I did think it was going to cost a little more. Not this much more. So it feels like it's kind of dead in the water until, to your point, Matt, I think GTA comes out and people have a real reason to want to spend the extra money on the better console. And some people will never get to that place. So a lot of people, Matt, are going to be fine playing GTA 6 at 30 frames a second. Let's just be honest. Like, it's not going to bother everybody.
Why would the UK include Ireland when Ireland is not part of the kingdom they're talking about?
I don't know.
Obi-Wan 9000 says UK includes Ireland and Great Britain is England, Scotland, and well, the UK, as I understand it, is the kingdom. That the
United Kingdom.
Yeah. Ireland is not part of the kingdom.
Yeah.
North Ireland, yes. We had a war about that.
It's always been confusing to me, honestly, as an American. Retro Modern Gamer says, will PlayStation 5 Pro enter PlayStation VR 2 territory? I don't think so. Because eventually this will become the base console that everybody buys once the price comes down.
4 years.
Right.
Yeah.
But it will eventually. PlayStation VR 2 is always going to be this extra thing that you're getting to add onto your console. I think that changes things a little bit. And everyone's arguing about what is and what is not the UK. So only on GameFace will we get in discussions like that in our chat. We do tend to go on tangents here and there every once in a while. So anyway, that's the latest on the PlayStation 5 Pro. I'm assuming more details will start coming out. Maybe we'll learn what the GPU is. Maybe we'll learn exactly what the RAM is eventually. And that may be out there already, but we're sitting here doing this show, and we weren't able to find it. I did as much digging as I could before I had to come to do the show.
The UK includes Northern Ireland, but that's not Ireland.
Right.
That's a separate country.
It is, yeah. It absolutely is. So anyway, there you go. That is the PlayStation 5 Pro. Next up, the other big story from the last week and a half. We teased it a little bit earlier. Concord, PlayStation's hero shooter. We barely knew ya. It launched. It sold by some, reportedly, it sold around 25,000 units. Its max, aggregate crowd on Steam was less than 1,000 players.
It was less than 600.
Less than 600. I was trying to give it the benefit of the doubt.
No.
And PlayStation has just killed it. I tried to go buy the retail version of this game when I got back.
They pulled it that morning. They were all gone from physical stores.
I was in transit when all this was happening. I was in Pennsylvania.
No, the first thing I did when I saw that was I looked for a physical copy because I'm like, that's going to be a collector's item. And they were all gone. Like, they had been pulled from shelves.
They're gone. They also pulled it from PSN libraries today.
Yep, even the review copies.
Yeah, if you had a review copy.
I saw Bloodworth post a screenshot of his review copy having been pulled.
Gone. Yeah. Matt, do you think this is really the end for Concord?
Yes.
You do?
Like, originally I kind of thought, they'll rework it and put it out free to play eventually. I think this thing's poisoned now.
Yeah.
I think this is over. I don't think you can do that.
It is hard because it's become such a huge story.
Yeah, and look, you could have sailed your way to it, but shutting it down 11 days after.
I don't understand why they shut it down.
Because the math. Basically, you see the math of what it sold and who's playing it right now, and you're never going to get there. The math must have been, it is more financially sound to cut and run than to try to sort of struggle our way through to a point where we could naturally transition to free to play. That is what had to have happened there.
But if you think about it, I mean, some people say it was in development for 8 years. Some people say 6 years.
Yeah, it was 4 years.
Okay.
The initial pitch on napkins was 8 years ago. The talk of actually doing it and sort of getting things up and running was 6 years ago. Active development took 4 years.
4 years.
It was pretty normal development cycle.
That's a lot of money.
Yes.
So you figure, leaving the servers up for the few people that are playing it, it's not going to cost you that much.
But it is going to cost you because this wasn't just leaving the servers up. This was constantly making a flow of
content.
So Kyle Bosman's video on this is really good. The delayed input that he did on this.
I didn't watch it actually. I skipped through it or whatever.
I don't watch his stuff all the time, but I was interested in this partly because the title was I think it was Concord was a dumb oopsie, and I'm like, all right, I'll click on that.
Yeah.
Fuck it. And of course it turns out he's like, yeah, I wanted to call it it's a stupid mistake. But that felt too toxic, so I changed the title to that. I'm like, well done, because he got me to watch.
Yeah.
But he talks about how even in the run-up to launch, where they started talking about future content roadmap stuff, you could see they were struggling. And his example was they're talking about variant characters. And one of the variants, as an example, was one of the characters, the variant of him has one extra grenade. And how that totally changes the game. And Bosman was like, that seems very clear to me that they were struggling to find a way to continue to make meaningful content past launch, even when they thought they might sell well.
But that's a no-brainer. You just add new characters and new maps, the way every game of its type does.
But that costs money and takes hundreds of people, and their
I'm saying you just stop that. You'd let the people play with the maps that you launch with and the characters that you launch with, and you put the team on, making it free to play.
Here's the thing. I think, and this is speculation on Sony, Sony's not here to do that.
Yeah.
They're here to make a big hit.
Yeah.
And they're here to rake in the money, and if the game's not doing it, and they're not going to sit here and try to rehabilitate this thing. This thing reportedly sold 25,000 copies.
I know.
25,000. That is horrifying. Now,
it's a huge investment to eat.
Oh,
I
huge.
mean, games get canceled all the time that we don't even know about.
Right. But I know people that know half a dozen or more, multiple people. It's just there's so many of these in development right now you don't know about because they haven't been announced yet.
Yeah.
People are still. We talk about how ridiculous it is that it's pretty obvious this game was conceived 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Not developed.
You can tell by the game itself.
This thing came about in the heyday of Guardians of the Galaxy being popular and Overwatch.
Yeah.
And they're
like Overwatch with Guardians. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah,
8 years ago, it wasn't.
Oh, yeah. If you could have gotten this out in 2018, I think you would have had something.
Yeah.
And I think there was a point where, like, there's no saving this. Like, you look at the numbers of people engaged on this thing, and Sony just had to say, there's no outcome here that is worth our time and money. So we're just going to eat it, take the write-off, hopefully we'll be able to write. I mean, you're not going to get the write-down that you would have gotten from, like, say, when Warner Brothers, like, cancels the release of Batgirl or Coyote versus Acme, but pulling it back, shutting it down completely, refunding everything will get you some distance to that. Maybe even qualify as a full write-down. I don't know. I don't exactly know how that works up there. I mean, probably Sony has the clout and lawyers to pull that off.
What do you do with the studio now? Because they actually made a pretty high-quality game.
I mean, I don't... Personally, I would probably end up having to lay off about half of them because you don't need that online content staff anymore. But you've clearly got talented people here, and so it would make sense to have them pivot to do something else, maybe not another live service game, but they clearly have the chops to do some kind of original story, original characters, some, you know, hell, turn it around and take these same characters and make a fucking story-driven narrative game out of them.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying these are great characters because I wasn't interested in them, but part of the reason I wasn't interested is because I knew that their characters would never matter because it's a fucking online shooter.
Yeah. Well, they were supposed to do those vignettes every week or whatever.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's never going to matter.
Well, they started putting them out, and I was like, these don't make me care about the characters.
But, again, if they did like the Guardians game, but they did that sort of equivalent with these characters, and you got to know some of them, and you got to kind of go through some stuff with them, it might actually count. And I will maintain. So, other people have said this. I'm not the first person to say this, but you were here, so you know that I'm telling the truth. I watched 30 seconds of this trailer, and I knew it was garbage. I knew this was dead.
Yeah.
Like, periodically, I see something, and I'm just like, that's doomed.
Yeah.
And I'm
the
right.
Consulting
because the other time that happened, but that I can recall recently, is Suicide Squad. I've been saying Suicide Squad was dead in the water since
the first time
they showed it to us.
Yeah.
That wasn't even not even the gameplay reveal that everybody lost their minds over, and rightly so, because it was terrible. But like original first trailer, I'm like, no, I don't want to even touch this thing. This looks like awful to me. I don't understand why this exists. And sure enough, there was no reason for that to exist.
Let's be fair. The market for this type of game has really fallen through the floor in the last 12 months.
It's just saturated.
Yeah.
How many of these games do they expect people to be playing simultaneously?
What's going to happen with Marvel Rivals, do you think, now?
I think Marvel Rivals has the best shot at actually carving out a tiny little corner somehow because of the IP.
I agree.
This just had the double whammy of trying
Nobody
to do that, and no one knows what it is, and everybody looked at it and saw James Gunn ripoff.
Or they saw, I already have 4 games like this on my hard drive.
And there was no way to win this because if you love James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy and Suicide Squad stuff, you look at this and you're like, well, this is just a big ripoff of James Gunn. And if you hate James Gunn, you're like, well, this is like James Gunn, and I hate it.
Yeah.
So like, you had no, there's a lot of division over James Gunn because of him doing Superman, and there's people that can't wait for his Superman. I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
And there's people that hate him because it's not the Snyderverse. And
hello,
nothing is so terrible that someone on the internet won't love it.
Oh, wow.
So
that's crazy. Yes, I mean, I'll be honest. Were you surprised that they pulled the cord so fast? I was.
Yeah, I mean, 11 days was a little shorter than I thought. I thought they'd give it 6 months.
I thought they'd give it like 3 months. I thought at least they would give it.
I mean, Avengers lasted a lot longer.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Avengers had a slightly bigger head start. Like, Anthem lasted longer, but Anthem sold millions when it came out.
I mean, another thing, too, is that,
like the fact that no one was fooled by this one is really interesting.
It did have some competition that came out around the same time. It kind of got lost in the shuffle. Like, we didn't review it. The other problem, too, I think, is that the beta was so robust that a lot of outlets, I felt like we kind of reviewed it already.
We did kind of review it. Also, it was interesting to me that when that beta went free, went just open, no one fucking signed up for it. No one cared.
Right.
And
but wasn't that there was also like a holiday week? There's something going on that weekend, I thought.
Maybe. I don't remember. Because here's the thing. Nothing this game ever did stuck in my head. I periodically have to remind myself what it's called.
Right. The name also was
terrible
really
title.
Bad. Yeah, really bad.
It's a terrible title.
I still don't know what it means. Do you?
I don't know. Well, I assume Concord...
Is it the ship that they're on? Is it called the Concord?
Yeah, I think the ship is called the Concord, maybe.
I don't know.
I assumed it was a reference to teamwork.
Do any of you guys know what it means?
Because Concord means, working together.
Ed Rock the Truth asked, could they use the assets to try and make a third-person shooter? They already have the vignettes.
That's what I'm saying. Is like you could make a different game out of it. You could basically do what because Overwatch was going to be an MMO and they made it into a hero shooter. Take this thing and make it into a single player third-person shooter. Like,
you're
fuck
right.
it. Why not?
I hear you. Why not? You've done all this
so
work. Much money and
you put all this money into it. There's clearly care put into it. I mean, that's one of the biggest tragedies here. Is like, so many years of these people's prime creative years wasted on this thing, and Sony just like throws it away in less than 2 weeks. And like, it's not
how
like,
demoralizing.
It's not like I'm saying they're wrong because like you should have thrown it away in the pitch meeting, frankly.
Yeah.
But like, what a waste! What a waste of
it's better than Valorant.
Humanity. Sure.
I think it's better than Valorant. I played both of them recently. I enjoyed this way more than Valorant, but Riot stuck with it, and now Valorant has turned into a thing.
Yeah, I mean, don't ask me what makes success in this space. I don't know if
anybody knows at this point. Let's
I don't
be
think
honest.
they do.
I think perseverance is part of it.
If they did, I don't think Sony would have decided to make 10 of these fucking things and just see which one stuck.
You do wonder what's going on behind the scenes now with that stuff.
I'd be a little worried.
Whether PlayStation's like, hey, maybe we need to to think about this a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe we should have just stuck to what we were good at,
and people enjoyed buying from us.
And I know that like people have pointed out that like like one of these, if you get a critical mass hit with one of these games, it makes more in a year than every single game Capcom puts out combined.
Yeah,
because Capcom's one of the only companies without like a live service thing. Yeah. Like Monster Hunter's as close as they get, and it's not really the same deal. But you know who's not in danger of laying half their people off? You know who's not in danger of going bankrupt and blowing their stock out the back of the fucking house because the shareholders are so disappointed by the failure of the latest hyped next big thing? Capcom.
Yeah.
Capcom makes a reliable amount of money. They don't make the big money. They don't make Riot money.
Yeah.
But they reliably make a lot of money every year. Everything is good.
Turn a big profit.
It works.
Yeah.
And you know what to expect, and they're a reliable investment. That's the problem, is like the line goes up thing, the infinite growth myth.
Yeah.
It's like, as a smart investor, you have to at some point accept that the best investments are things you can count on, not things you bet on.
No, you're right. Yeah.
And you can bet on, you can make big bets, but you have to have a foundation to rely on.
Yeah,
and Capcom is that foundation compared to what they're doing here. And look who's doing fine.
Yeah.
Capcom.
They'll take their 12 to 14% return.
When was the last time Capcom laid off 50% of their fucking workforce?
No, instead they're giving people raises.
Never.
Yeah. Yep, it's true. Yeah. So
maybe go back to what you're good at. I mean, there's a reason when Cerny did that presentation today, the main thing they showed were Spider-Man and Last of Us.
Well, did you notice that exec from PlayStation this week came out and said, we don't have enough IP?
No, you do not. Except if you play Astro Bot, you're like, you've got tons of IP. You just don't fucking use them.
You don't know what to do with it. Yeah, you're not
because while that game is a celebration of all these Sony IPs, it is also a graveyard.
Right, it is.
As that column.
Like
I don't remember who wrote that column, but it's like I was going through. I was like, I don't even know who the fuck that is, and I'm like, oh my god, it's Mad Maestro.
We're gonna talk about some of that here in a minute. Yeah.
It's great, and so like you've got tons of IP, you just don't have boutique IP.
You're not dedicating your teams to working on the IP and maximizing the IP. That's another problem.
Or you're just you're hung up on this or that, or everything. It's.
Or you have people like orators like Naughty Dog who are like, we don't want to do The Last of Us Part 3 right away. We want to do this fantasy thing. And it's like, we want to keep them happy creatively. It's like, okay.
Well, they also admitted, I mean, there's a new IP for you, though, that fantasy thing. But they also admitted that, they lost some time because of factions.
Yep.
Which probably would have turned out something like this.
Probably would have done a little.
Would have been done.
They wouldn't have pulled the plug in 11 days.
But it would have done better because it has an IP behind it.
Yeah. That people care about. Yeah.
I'll tell you this much: if I was working on that marathon game, I would have my resume ready right now.
I'd start dusting it off right now.
Pull that fucking. I mean, obviously, there's nowhere to go. Like the business is terrible.
You gotta wait till things turn around.
Business everywhere in entertainment is terrible right now. A couple weeks ago, I saw there was a thread on Facebook where almost everyone I knew who was crew at G4 and Game Trailer, all the crew guys I know, they were all just posting about the new careers they've started in the last 8 months because they can't get work anymore.
I saw that thread on Facebook. Yeah. I know exactly the thread you're talking about. It was very demoralizing.
Some of the best people I've ever worked with.
I know.
And they haven't had work since January.
And they're all like talking about going back to school or going to a trade school.
I started trade school, or I'm a plumber now, or else it's horrifying. It's never been this bad.
It really hasn't.
And the game industry seems to be just as bad.
Yeah, it's true. So anyway, R.I.P. Concord. In fact, I probably should have done this a long time ago, and I should have played taps for Concord as soon as we started discussing the topic, because I agree with you, Matt. I don't think it's coming back. When it first was announced, I did think it was coming back. I'm like, this is going away for 8 months or whatever.
Oh, and I forgot the end of Bosman's video. But he talks about how harshness can be kindness if you're stopping someone from doing a really terrible, horrible thing.
Yeah.
And so he gets real nasty about fair games.
Oh, I saw that actually. I did watch that part. He's like, y'all need to quit making the game. You're all going to get screwed.
Pretty much, yeah. And you know what?
He's probably right.
Considering I forgot that existed, every time you bring up Jade Raymond's, I'm just like, wait, what? And they do, I mean, maybe you have obviously you have a different PR push closer to release or whatever.
Well, there's her. It also does have its own kind of thing. Like, it is like a heist shooter where you're going in, it's a little bit like a Payday.
And I'm already asleep.
Yeah, I know. You don't care about any of this multiplayer stuff.
But also, like, even Payday couldn't do Payday.
Payday 3, yeah, it's pretty bad. Yeah.
So everyone working on a game like that, of that Overwatch sort of spin-off sort of thing, feels like everybody's just driving as fast as they can. You're driving as fast as you can towards the same wall.
Yeah.
And turn would be
before it's too late, before you fly off the cliff.
And I know it's not their choice. I mean, none of the people who made Concord, other than he does spend some time calling the head of that company an oaf. I don't know if that's accurate.
Yeah. I wouldn't do that anyway, but
no, but like he admits, he's like, is that toxic? Yes, it is toxic. But like, no one at that company, it's not their fault. Like, they weren't the ones who made the decision to make that game.
Yeah,
They're not
they
the
got
ones
the green light. They were paid to do a job.
They're paid to do their job, and they did their job, and they did it well.
Yeah.
Like, you can't look at. I would hire anyone who worked on the sound, graphics, visual, gameplay levels. I would hire anyone who worked on that game to work on my game.
Me too.
In my theoretical.
They're
game.
skilled. Yeah. I mean, it was not the game's quality that was the problem.
No, and that's important. It seems to be something that gets lost in the online shuffle and the arguments and the console warring and shit. Like, I don't give a shit that this was a PlayStation exclusive.
Yeah,
I
don't care either.
Like, that doesn't matter to
me.
me.
They do, but we don't.
Sure, but like, I mean, it matters to me in the sense that, like, hey, like, if you're gonna put 10 of these things out, maybe you should keep putting out single player games or offline games that people want to play
just
too. Just in case none of it sticks.
Yeah.
Like, God, imagine if Helldivers 2 had done what we expected Helldivers 2 to do, and we would just been looking at
there'd be some serious
just tumbleweeds for the whole 2024 release schedule there.
Because that is what they're kind of leaning on here for the next 2 years. These games they've been working on.
Like, you don't even have like a Returnal in the barrel here.
No.
Like, even like the little side things where you're like, oh, that's cool. That's not what I'm here for, but it's cool.
How telling was it that they showed Returnal in the presentation for the PS5 Pro?
Mm-hmm.
When that game,
and it took me a second to remember what that was.
When that
game
what
game
is
out,
that? Matt, I was like, oh, this is a nice little filler for your release count. Like, I never dreamed 4 years later we'd still be talking about it because so few great first-party games would be released for the PlayStation 5.
There was no Forspoken in there, was there?
No, that's where they drew the line.
There's a line there.
That's where they put the line in the sand. So anyway, rest in peace, Concord. I really hope I hope they should keep the studio and have them work on something else because, to Matt's point, they are very talented. So we'll see how it all goes.
I have no doubt that team, was it Firewalk? Is that
Fire Sprite, I think?
No.
There's Fire Sprite and Firewalk.
They're Firewalk.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I have no doubt they could make a standard Sony Sad Dad walk and talk game. No question.
Seriously. That's easy to make compared to what they tried to make, I think, anyway. You just need good writers, obviously. Yeah. So anyway,
like something along the lines of Banished.
Yeah,
like they could easily pull that off.
I do agree with you. I do not think Concord is coming back now. First blush, I thought it would, and as time has gone on, I learned more information. I agree with you. I think
if you'd asked me like the day they announced this, I would have said free to play in 6 months.
But as time has gone on,
I don't think so anymore.
Next up, got some some stuff from Ubisoft. The last time we were here, we talked about Star Wars Outlaws. We had our review of Star Wars Outlaws, and then we had to leave for Labor Day weekend. We haven't really followed up on it, but Ubisoft has been following up on it because it's getting beat up. Its stock is in the trash. Like, yesterday, one of his stockholders wrote a crazy diatribe to Ubisoft saying that it should go private, and the person owned like buku stock, and it's like, I'm losing my ass here. Like, you guys need to get out of the market. You need to go private. And then, obviously, the team who worked on Star Wars Outlaws, I think they've been caught off guard by the response to the game. At first, they said that it was like devastating to see the Metacritic scores. They couldn't believe it. And so I think they're going through all the stages of grief right now.
A little bit. But this is interesting because somewhere in there, they finally realized that the biggest problem with Outlaws is the first hour.
Yeah.
Because I played it more since we talked about it. You know, that first day it went up early access. Game does that, as you said. The game gets a lot better once you fix the hyperdrive.
Yeah,
and can go to other planets and do other things. And again, the fact, and this is what they're addressing here, the fact that in the first hour you have to do an insta-fail stealth mission is bonkers.
In 2024 is insane.
Bonkers.
It literally is insane. Yes. Yep.
Like,
so we didn't even introduce this though. And so the Outlaws, one of the Outlaws team members, basically said yesterday or the day before, yesterday, that the instant fail missions are being removed because they are unfair. How do you go through all the years? It never ceases to amaze me, Matt, how they can develop a game for 4 years and not pick up on the most obvious stuff.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because now that I'm like 30, 40 hours into the game, the insta-fail section... Well, the insta-fail sections are pretty much the secure places in the various like cartels locations.
Right.
They have the Pike area, and then in the Pike area there is an area you're not still, even if you're on excellent terms, you're still not supposed to go in there.
Yeah.
And if you get caught in there, you're not allowed to use your gun or your smoke bombs or punch. You can knock people out, but you're not allowed to do any of that. And if you get caught, you get booted out of the area and you lose a little reputation, and then that's the end of it. That's the only place that really happens, except for that one couple of forced stealth missions early in the game, which are, again, not great first impressions.
Yeah.
The problem is, so I've snuck through that area in the same Pike area that you have to do the forced stealth section in the beginning of the game, and I can just literally cruise through that now. But I couldn't when I started the game because I didn't know anything about A, how the game's stealth worked, which isn't tremendously good, and B, the layout of that area.
Right.
And I kept getting caught by weird shit I wasn't aware of. Now I know where everything is, and I know what I have to work with, and I haven't been caught in one of those insta-fail stealth sections in probably a dozen hours. But you don't have that at the beginning. And throwing you into that in the beginning is just going to be frustrating for just about anybody.
Everybody, yeah.
And I woke up at 5 in the goddamn morning to play that game on New Zealand time, and when I hit that mission, I failed like 7 or 8 times in a row, and I just put the fucking controller down and walked away for an hour.
Yeah.
That shouldn't happen to anyone. It certainly shouldn't happen with me playing a Star Wars game.
Or anyone playing a Star Wars game.
Ridiculous. So to me, it has to be that you've played this game so many times because you're obviously testing it. You just don't realize what it's like for someone who's never touched this thing before.
Can't see the forest for the trees,
100%.
so to speak.
Yeah.
What a huge mistake. Well, now they're like, how do you even fix that, though?
I mean, the main
how do
way...
you remove the no-fail missions?
Well, the main way you fix it is you make him take a lot longer to see her.
Yeah.
Because the problem with the first one is the one that needs the most help.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is mainly that there's a section where you come down these stairs, and down there's like a long hallway, and you're supposed to go around to the left and sneak through this area on the left. And there's 2 guards in front of like the door that takes you to the treasure vault. And then there's more guards that go back and forth along that hallway. And they can see you like 150 yards away, which is realistic, but it has that thing where like, oh, you get a yellow dot, which means they see something. And if it turns red, they see you and you failed.
Yeah.
The problem is that they do what is actually a pretty realistic thing. If they see you, they start walking towards you.
Yeah.
And in that area, there's not really anywhere to go. There's like a little vent you can go, but by the time you get to the vent, you've probably seen you, and they will look in the vent, and if they see you in the vent, you're fucked.
Yeah.
And the outcome of that, the best outcome of that, is you are sitting in the corner of an air vent for like a minute, waiting for the fucking yellow things to go away, and it's just like, this isn't fun.
That's a terrible best case scenario.
And you go through the left side to get around them, and you kind of come around. And they can see, the guards over here can see you through some of the mesh. So if you go too far towards the mesh to pick up this one item, they can see you, and then you're fucked because there's nowhere to go.
Right.
And then once you get around that thing, you go past some more boxes, and then the level design seems to direct you across the road into this alleyway. But you're not where you're supposed to go. If you go in that alleyway, there's a guy you can't avoid, and a camera that you can, if you use Nix to distract the camera, you can pass it, but there's no way to avoid the guard who's going to also notice Nix.
Right.
And that's not even where you're supposed to go. You're supposed to turn left where the guards patrol once they've gone past you, and then just go and climb up the side of the building over there, which is very easy. But the level design does that thing where it looks like it's funneling you into the alleyway, which is not where you're supposed to go. It's just very badly communicated. I talked about this
in our review.
And in the end, that thing, basically, it's what you said. Like, figure out what the easiest thing to do is and do that, which is indeed the easiest thing to do is to turn left because there's no fucking camera in that direction.
Right. Yep.
So, like, but it's counterintuitive to how the game is talking to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I understand exactly.
Like,
Matt, I'll be honest with you. I find this problem in games a lot. Where, and like, we're going to talk about Astro Bot here in a minute.
I'm mostly just shocked that it's in a Ubi game because they're usually pretty good about that.
Yeah.
This is, like, I was just, you would think this game has gone through so much, like, so many magnifying glasses,
right?
You know, because it's Star Wars.
Yeah,
I've worked with Lucas.
Should have, yeah.
I've worked with Lucasfilm before.
Yeah.
It's like dealing with entomologists. They're just like, it's like they take the stuff you do and they stick it on a pin and they look at it through a fucking microscope, and they're like, Boba Fett's cape needs 400 thread count, and this is clearly 300.
Yeah,
and it's just like, what the
there's certain parts about evaluating games where I just, like, personally I do it because I've been playing games for so long and evaluating for them so long. Mentally I do it. I don't bring it up in a show, like, because it's like there's a certain point where it's too in the weeds, and I feel like that is one of them. Like how the game messages things to the player. Yeah. Even Astro Bot, we're going to talk about it in a minute, and I'm just going to say right now, I freaking love it. But even Astro Bot has problems like messaging things in a sequential order to teach the player what the game is eventually going to ask from them. And like talking about stuff like that in a podcast with people who just like play games casually, I don't think it really serves a great purpose for them, but I can't help but notice it when I'm playing games.
I would argue that a lot of the people that listen to this do not play games just casually. I mean, I think most people just followed what I said about Outlaws.
Yeah.
Especially if you played Outlaws, you know exactly that midget.
Yeah.
I've had people I know that are more casual players like message me about Outlaws, the early missions of Outlaws, with very similar reaction, and they don't have the language to.
They don't understand what's happening, but
I'll be like, "This is this," and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's exactly what it feels like." I'm like, "Yeah, because that's what's happening." I'm like, just everyone I've just said, just fix the hyperdrive.
Yeah,
get the ship, fix the hyperdrive, and the game is different after that.
Then it does turn into like awesome Star Wars tourism, basically.
100%. I still don't really like. I still think it's like a 7.5. Like, I still don't love it. And I wish
like I said,
did.
I think the scores are right for the average player.
But it's still, like, probably the 12th best Star Wars game.
Right.
It's not my top 10.
I think it's probably better than 12.
I don't think it is.
Really?
I would put both KOTORs, all the TIE Fighter X-Wing stuff, Rogue Leader, Rogue Squadron.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Both Cal Kestis Jedi games. You get to 10 pretty quick with the top Star Wars games. So I would say it's in the 13, 12, 11.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, actually, now that you mentioned
it. And look, there's been like 180 Star Wars games, so that's not any kind of...
it's not bad.
That's not a slam on Outlaws.
A lot of this, it's always about expectations versus the reality. And if the expectations are sky high, even if the game's pretty good, people are going to remember that game more negatively.
One, for me, also, like, my expectations, I feel, are pretty normal.
Particularly for as big of a Star Wars fan
I certainly knew what it was.
Yeah.
And my disappointment with it isn't that it was just a big, just a big underworld simulator, because I've said that's the least interesting part of Star Wars to me. Mm-hmm. My disappointment is that it's such a pedestrian game in terms of the mechanics. Like, the technology here is obviously beyond what we could, but sometimes it feels like I'm playing a game from 2008.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't...
I think it might be intentional. I think they wanted to keep it more simple for
people
who might...
There's moments from that, especially in the stealth stuff, where I'm just like, man, I feel like I'm playing Splinter Cell Blacklist.
No, you're right.
You know?
I felt that way.
Right down to the fucking auto-target super
and the
move thing.
The lights and everything. Yeah, I hear you. I felt that way, too. So anyway, they are trying to fix this game. If you're disappointed in it, you bought it, and maybe you bounced off of it, you're like, you still have it. I don't think Ubisoft is going to give up on this until it turns into something pretty special.
No, definitely not. I mean, they got 2 DLC planned. The development team's already still talking about like upgrading and adding more stuff after that. Mm-hmm. This will be around for a while.
Yeah.
So, I do. It does sound like it sold below what they were hoping.
Yeah.
Although it did apparently outsell Avatar pretty well.
I would hope so, because Avatar literally died on the vine.
Yeah, which is too bad because I understand
it's better than its sales.
It is better than the Reputation. I enjoyed that game.
Me too.
More than I thought I would.
Yeah.
This one, here's the thing though, it's like you're always gonna be behind the 8 ball when you don't have lightsabers. Mm-hmm. Like everyone's all stunned.
Everyone's gonna look for an excuse to hate it. Like first of all,
well, the sales were like something like 55% of Jedi Survivor, and it's like, okay, well, Jedi Survivor was a sequel to a pretty well received game.
Yeah,
it was a game where you play as a Jedi. You're always going to have like you're gonna have a downside
lightsaber.
There.
That matters a lot.
Because let's not forget that the only movie in the entire franchise that lost money was the one that was just about the underworld stuff.
Right.
It was Solo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like it's just not that the gunslinger Western gangster thing is flavor to the space wizard story.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like the brilliance of Han Solo in the original Star Wars is that he's just a guy.
Yeah, that's why everyone resonated with him.
Yeah, because Han Solo, I mean...
That's us in Star Wars.
45 minutes through this crazy-ass movie, which starts with just a bunch of fucking droids and puppets.
Yeah.
Like, there's no humans in that
No,
movie.
you're right.
Like, you don't see Luke until like 10, 15 minutes in.
Yeah.
And like, all of a sudden, they go to this weird-ass cantina, and Han Solo is just like... a man from the 1970s. He's just an American man.
Yeah.
And like he sits there and sort of acts about how fucking weird all this shit is.
Yeah.
And we kind of come to that universe through him in that regard. And that's one of the problems the prequels had is it didn't have Han.
No,
it didn't have
that connective
a grounded
tissue,
character. Like Anakin needed some like street rat thief friend that he made in Coruscant,
right.
who like stands around being like, "Well, that just happened." Like, that kind of
wisecracking,
like how ridiculous all this highfalutin Jedi shit is.
Right.
That's what the prequels were missing.
Yeah.
But I don't think that works on its own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I mean, they do a pretty good job making it work here, but it works because you're sort of wandering through this world and you're touring, like you said, it's a Star Wars tourism simulator. Mm-hmm. It's the same feeling you get when you walk through Galaxy's Edge for the first time, and you're like, "Oh, look at that! Look at that! Look at that!"
Yeah.
There's a guy over there, and like to the point that you can tell they did it really well because like some of my friends who are like really enjoying the Star Wars aspect are like, I think it's stupid that the Rhodians can talk normal English.
Yeah.
The Greedo guys.
Right, yeah.
And I'm like, well, they've done that since the Clone Wars TV show. So like that's apparently that mouth can make English sound. I know it doesn't look like it makes any sense, but like they can.
I still enjoyed the game.
I enjoy it.
As a huge Star
I played
Wars
it
fan,
40 hours.
Yeah.
I don't dislike it. I just...
Yeah. As a huge Star Wars fan, if I had paid for it, I felt like I would have got my money out of it.
I will say this. I like Sabacc a lot more than I thought I would. And I'm looking forward to that Lando DLC.
Oh, interesting.
Like Lando plus like a big card tournament.
Yeah.
Like it's also like the front for like a weird... Because I think what that is I think you're trying to help him get into Jabba's palace.
Probably.
I think it's going to explain how he got into Jabba's palace to infiltrate there and how he gets in there for Return of the Jedi.
Because they don't really explain it. In the films, yeah.
I mean, there's a old EU explanation because they did Shadows of the Empire and all that, but they have not really talked about that here. Although maybe they did in the comic. I haven't kept up with the comic.
Yeah,
that takes place
I don't read any of that stuff.
But that'd be a fun way to kind of get into that. And then of course the next one is Hondo, and I love Hondo.
Yeah. We need to move on, unfortunately, to the next headline, and that is something completely unrelated and a little off the beaten path compared to what we've been talking about. Previews came out this week for Super Mario Party Jamboree. When was the last time you enjoyed a Mario Party game, Matt?
Never.
Or have you ever?
Never.
Never?
Honestly, I think the only one I played was the N64 one.
Oh, really? Where our thumbs got ground into...
For me, it was my hand. Because I would spin the hand, I would put it on my palm of my hand and spin the stick. And at one point, I literally ground skin off my palm.
And we also ground our analog sticks into dust.
Oh, that was where all the dust started coming off of the thing.
Yeah. Well, the previews came out for this week.
These games are too luck-driven for me.
I agree with that.
They're infuriating.
That's a big problem with it. But the big problem for me, the reason I've fallen off with this franchise over the years is because as I've gotten older, I have not had people to play the games with. Mm-hmm. My wife is like, I'm not playing you head-to-head at Mario Party. It's just absurd. And like, I don't have a crew that comes over to play games anymore, and there's just nobody to play with. And this game is literally worthless. Yeah. If you don't have someone to play with. Well,
single-player Mario Party is one of the worst things.
You just feel so sad and pathetic playing Mario Party by yourself. Well,
half the interesting part of Mario Party is the other players screwing up.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And so, like, And even when the CPU screws up, you just feel like it's letting you win. You're saying, okay, mercy game.
Or
right?
people like us being able to flex our gaming skills against the more casual people who play Mario Party with. There was a charm to it, but I've lost that charm because I don't have anyone to play with anymore. Well, the previews for this game, pretty much every single one of them was like, the online play changes everything.
There are people who probably had kids just to be able to play Mario Party effectively.
Well, as you can see in that shot right there, like up to 10 people can play this online. And that changes everything. Suddenly I have tons of people. Now, it is a Nintendo game, so are you going to be able to voice chat with them? Probably not. Which does
I
take
don't
away
need to
some
talk to any of these people.
I think for Mario Party, voice chat's kind of fun, though. Not for every game, but I think for Mario Party...
You're just asking for people to be fucking racist.
Well, yeah.
The whole time.
Yeah.
Good luck.
You're right. But my point is that if you're like me and you have completely fallen out of love with the Mario Party franchise because you don't have people to play Mario Party with, maybe you've had kids and you've had people to play with. Not for me, but now with this new online play in Jamboree, I'm now interested in the franchise again. So if you enjoyed it back in the N64 days, and I did, I had fun with it back when I had people to play it with. If you're like me and you had fun with it back in the day, but now you don't have a lot of people around to play it with, maybe keep your eye on Super Mario Party Jamboree. It comes out on October 17th, so just a little bit over a month to wait. Or if you do have kids and you're not worried about the online play, the previews also said that it is a good Mario Party game on its own without the online play. So something to keep your eye on as it gets closer to its release date. Again, that is coming on October 17th, and of course that is exclusive to Switch. And something a little more related to what we were discussing earlier, one of the developers of Days Gone came out, I think it was yesterday.
The lead guy, isn't it?
Yeah, it was
the guy they booted.
Yeah. Who's no longer working at the studio.
Who got mad that he thought the reviewers tanked the game because they were woke.
Right. That's right. I forgot about that part.
This dude is
He's a little
pointless.
off his rocker, yeah. Well, he made another interesting statement this week where he said that he was offended to see the lead character from Days Gone in Astro Bot. And we're going to talk about Astro Bot here in a minute and how it is like this love letter to PlayStation fans. But he didn't look at it that way. He was salty. He's like, oh, you're going to put our character in your corny little 3D platformer, but you're not going to let us make a sequel to that game.
Yeah, well, one of those things costs a lot less than the other.
Yes.
Also, what, are you just mad that he's in a good game now?
Yeah. I mean, he should be happy that franchise is being kept alive at all.
Yeah, it's a big tribute to all the... It's like the fact that they even included that stupid character from that shitty game in their big celebration of PlayStation. Like, that's more than you deserve,
It seriously is. I couldn't believe his response to this. It's like they're keeping your IP alive. They are giving your IP a chance to maybe come back someday.
And then over the course of like people kind of digging into this, it turned out that Sony didn't kill Days Gone 2. Ben decided not to do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they didn't even pitch it to Sony. That's what I read. It was a new like investigation thing that came out yesterday.
The one guy who's still at the studio definitely did not say that. He definitely said that PlayStation gave the red light and said no to the Days Gone sequel.
Well, from what I saw, they did not pitch Days Gone 2 to them.
Wow.
Maybe Sony preemptively said don't even
bother. Yeah.
But like it sounds like it was internally decided we don't want to do this.
Yeah. I mean, it also sounds to me like they got rid of the right guy.
Sounds like and it sounds like why, don't throw good money after bad.
Yeah. I mean, we both agree that a sequel to Days Gone was probably not in the best. But
I'm sure like if you did a sequel to Days Gone, you could probably come out with a pretty good 7 out of 10. Like I'm sure it would improve.
Yeah. Over the.
But I'm sure they have better things to do over there. So, and I hopefully they get to make their own games again. Like I know they've kind of become a support team.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
They say they're working on a new IP.
So good.
Yeah.
Keep doing it, but not this. You gave it a shot. And I don't ever need to see Boozer ever again. I'm glad he wasn't in Astro Bot.
Yeah, and PlayStation gave him an opportunity. I mean, they worked on this game for quite a while.
Yeah, and I don't see how, it's like, oh, they didn't give it a chance. I think they did fine.
Yeah, I think PlayStation could have been a better shepherd and could have reined the game in and been like, look, this game doesn't need to be 70 hours long. How about we keep all the best stuff and we make it 30 hours long?
What if you got more than 4 feet to the gallon in the bike?
Or what if you actually get to fight the hordes that we use for marketing?
What if it was a little more fun to play? What if every character wasn't a giant asshole?
Douchebag. AJ the Legend Watson says he's acting clownish simply because he didn't get what he thought he deserved. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some 13-year-old boy stuff going on here. So pretty embarrassing, honestly.
It's like you're not persecuted, you're just an asshole.
Pretty much. That's what it's come down to.
That's a lesson more of us need to learn.
Yep. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's a good point. So anyway...
That applies to you too, Boozer.
Yeah. So... I mean, honestly, I don't think that having Days Gone in Astro Bot means that it's any more likely to get a sequel, but I think it's just like a nod
any
to
more than we're going to get another Incredible Crisis. But
yeah, I think they're just saying, look, you people work for us, you worked hard on this, and we want to,
relevant. We did a
nod.
PC port. It's part of the landscape. There's a bunch of stuff that wasn't in there.
Right.
I was like, I wonder if this will be in there. No.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like, I couldn't even remember what his fucking name was when I saw him pop up in Astro Bot, so I had to look him up.
Yeah, I would never take this as a negative if had worked on Days Gone.
And it's also it's like why you upset that your serious art is shilling for the fun little like platform game. It's like, bro, I'm sorry that like high-end dialogue like I agree to marry you as long as you ride me, as long as you ride your hog thing is like, I mean, real okay, bro. Like, I'm sorry, you no one appreciated your Shakespeare in your time, but come on.
This guy just basically...
Every other developer that's ever worked on any of that Sony stuff is just like, oh wow, we're in Astro Bot, great.
Yeah, seriously, except for him. And this guy's the one who got fired.
You see Media Molecule freaking out that Sackboy's in there? Because guess who's replacing Sackboy?
Pretty much, Astro Boy. Yeah, Astro Bot, but he's basically Astro Boy. So anyway, my guess is he just, I mean, he's probably rich and it doesn't matter, but he probably just cashed in his game development career with some of the stuff he just said. So
I think he's running his own thing, or he's working on some NFT game.
Yeah, like they all do. They all run off to work on blockchain and NFT crap. So anyway, that's the latest on. That's just a little side story related to Astro Bot, which again we're going to discuss in detail here in just a minute. We're almost done with our headlines for today's episode. We were talking earlier, obviously, about the PlayStation 5 Pro's exorbitant price. PlayStation has been jacking up the price in Japan for a while now. However, it also just increased the price of the DualSense controller worldwide by $5. Why? I just can't believe that we are in this generation where it launched at one price and it just keeps getting more expensive. It always used to be the opposite. It launches at a price and it gets cheaper over time.
I'm guessing this is some kind of thing related to the yen versus the dollar.
Yeah, I mean, the yen is brutal. There's no doubt about it, but maybe it's PlayStation was like, look, we're losing our ass on the yen, but let's wait until we are clearing away the industry leader before we start trying to recoup some of that stuff.
Some of that. I mean, some of it also I wonder is like, how much of this is the Sony Interactive side keeping the rest of that company afloat?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Sony Pictures is sketchy here, and I mean, not terrible, but like they haven't had really anything breakaway yet. They just announced that well, not announced, but it's been sort of leaked that Beyond the Spider-Verse is a long way out.
Really?
Apparently they scrapped a bunch of stuff. They don't expect that movie till 2027.
Wow.
The earliest.
Wow.
Which is stunning, because it's just like, did you put a cliffhanger movie out without knowing the rest of the fucking story,
it
guys?
Seems that way.
Come on.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
And the weird thing is, like, people are saying, like, well, nobody had a problem when Empire Strikes Back did it. I'm like, first off, yes, they did. Yeah. I was there, and people whined about that shit all the time. Two, there was a release date for Return of the Jedi, Revenge of the Jedi at the time, already when Empire came out, and it hit that release date 3 years later. Lucas put out 3 movies in the space of 6 years, and he invented new movie-making technology for everyone to do what he wanted to do. Meanwhile, it's going to take a decade to get this Miles trilogy done. If you were Miles Morales' age when Into the Spider-Verse came out, you're going to have graduated college by the time you get to see Beyond the Spider-Verse. That's hilarious. Crazy.
That is crazy. Yeah. It is interesting to see the industry leader acting like it's in last place.
Yeah, it's a little weird. But I mean, I guess there's sort of a things cost what they cost sort of thing. I mean, to me, like, I don't get sticker shock from stuff too much in terms of, oh, back in my day, blah, blah, blah. The fact that game controllers cost $80 fucking dollars, the fact that the controllers cost more than the games is bonkers,
it is bonkers to me. It used to be $35 or $40 back then.
Because I bet you the controller doesn't take as much money to develop and put out as the fucking game.
Yeah. It's pretty.
I did just buy that Astro Bot controller, so I don't know. You know.
Also, by the way,
hypocrite here, but like
the Astro Bot controller, we can confirm 1,000% does not have an animated eyeballs on the touchpad. We knew it all along. IGN kept reporting that it did for some reason. I don't know what it was thinking.
IGN really wanted that to be true. I don't know
I think
what
we
happened.
all wanted it to be
I would
true.
have great, yeah. But it would have been a redesign of the controller that would have basically required another 10-minute presentation from Cerny.
Yeah. The other thing I would say, too, before we move to...
What would that even be? There'd be an LCD screen in the touch screen. Oh, that'd be pretty cool. But
you have to completely rebuild the whole thing.
That thing would be a lot more than $80.
Yeah. Once I knew it was the same price, I knew there was no screen
You're
on
talking basically about putting an iPhone screen in the touchpad.
Yeah. And look, one thing I'll say before we move on to our last story of headlines is a lot of Americans complain about our economy or whatever. Wake up, people. We have the best economy in the world by a mile. Look at Japan. Its yen is in the toilet. Look at how much more Europe and the UK has to pay for the PlayStation 5 Pro. We have the best economy in the world. COVID crushed the economy worldwide. We have rebuilt way better than everybody else. It's not even close.
And it's still not great, but like... You pulled out of a tailspin, and now you're complaining that we're too low. Yeah. It's just like, no, we're not dead.
And it's like bonkers. Like, wake up. There's a whole world
now. Why are we at 15,000 feet? I'm like, well, we're not at 0 feet, so I'm
like a
not
lot
going
of other economies
we'll just give it some time.
I mean, we're complaining about how much we're paying for the PS5 Pro. We're paying way less than everybody else, and we're still complaining.
And wait till you see, even in Europe but wait till you see the prices in South America and Australia.
Oh, yeah, forget it. Forget it. You can't even afford it.
Like, if you want a PS5 Pro in New Zealand... Like, you're going to have to ransom some people.
Or mortgage your house or something, yeah. So anyway...
Go steal some Lord of the Rings artifacts and sell them off.
This is what happens, though, when a company that makes products that we all want really badly comes from a country where the economy is crap.
Yeah.
They end up increasing the price to offset the currency.
There's an element of kind of the late 80s, early 90s pricing with Japanese imports here happening. Mm-hmm. Like similar things happen with cars more. Yeah. Back then, I remember that. I mean, obviously, I wasn't buying cars because I was, a young teenager. But I remember, my parents complaining about how my mom loved her Celica. Yeah. And I remember some talk about like sticking with that. But then in the end, they bought American cars entirely because back then they cost better.
It was a difference for sure.
Now that was a mistake to give me the keys to the Pontiac Firebird, but.
Dating yourself a little bit there with the Firebird.
It was a 91. Yeah. I ripped the door off backing out of the driveway because I got the rear view mirror, the side mirror on the passenger side caught on one of the fence posts that was sticking out on the long driveway we had, and it ripped the whole door off because it was all one piece of plastic. It was all molded one thing. And I ran inside and I told my mom, I don't want to drive anymore.
What did you do?
My dad bought me a Geostorm and said, "Here, you can destroy this one.
No one will care.
No one cares
including
what you
us."
do to that." So
So anyway, I don't know.
And I did indeed destroy the Geostorm.
I don't know how many more of these price increases we're going to get out of PlayStation. It could keep going until the yen turns around.
Yeah, I mean, it seems a little weird that like instead of weathering that storm, a international mega corporation is just like, we're gonna nickel and dime the shit out of all of you.
In markets where we know you want our products.
Yeah.
Not that they're not ripping off Japan as well.
It's all around, but it's just like
PS5 Pro price is like $1,000.
But this is sort of the thing that people talk about. What we're talking about when we say like if Microsoft goes away. That's sort of a
problem.
Sony's not going to have any. They don't really have any checks on themselves.
Not anymore
at all. Anyway, because Microsoft's just a non-issue right now.
Yeah.
But this is the result.
It is.
They can do that and make the PlayStation.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
What are you going to do?
You can complain on the internet, and that's about it.
There's nowhere else to go.
Yeah. And then our final story for this week's headlines is that yesterday was the 25th anniversary of the Sega Dreamcast. 9/9/99 was the release date for the Dreamcast. This date and this console means a lot to me because I was kind of leaning towards doing what I'm doing now with just the N64 and PlayStation 1. Once I got my Dreamcast, though, it was over. I was like, this is it. This is what I'm doing. And then I launched my gaming website, Street Level Gaming, while I was in college. It was an N64 and Dreamcast website. And so for me personally, I feel like the Dreamcast is what really kind of pushed me over that last little iota that I needed. And probably it was a mistake in the end to bail on becoming a sports writer and instead become a games writer. It worked out great for the first 18 years. Mm-hmm. Now, not so much, as our industry has completely disappeared. So the Dreamcast is always going to have a very special place in my heart. Not a great library, ultimately. Probably 12 to 15, like, truly great to good games.
No, I would say closer to 30.
Really?
But that's largely because it was the only place to get good versions of a lot of the fighting games.
That's true.
I have 100 or so Dreamcast games, and I'd say half of them are imports. Mm-hmm. And most of those are fighters or other Capcom games of some stripe that were never available here, or when they did come here to either the PS1 or the PS2, they had missing animation frames, and they were not acceptable to me.
Yeah.
So yes, you had to go to the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast didn't come to you. And to be fair, I mean, I had already had one for almost a year when it came out here, because I had a import the year before.
Yeah.
I had to have my Godzilla Generations apparently. But I had. Yeah, I remember the day or two after Christmas '98, I went and Sonic Adventure came out, and I went and picked it up from the local import shop, Network Video in Burlingame, rest in peace.
Yeah.
And I brought it home, and I started playing it, and I'd already seen screenshots of the beach level of the Orca and stuff. I was in the second level when the tornado started. I just started laughing.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, what the fuck? And the other thing, so I was working in a game store in '99. I worked at that independent game store in downtown Redwood City, near there, and it was very scrappy. We did, but we were getting some Dreamcast. We did Soul Calibur tournaments and stuff. It was fun. But I remember going to the GameStop. I think it was Electronics Boutique still, actually. But I remember they had the demo kiosks set up, and of course I was like, well, I played all these games already because I've had the game system forever. But they did have NFL 2K.
Yeah.
And I had never seen anything.
That blew my mind.
That was post Sonic Adventure the year before. That was my next gen American Dreamcast experience, was seeing that and being like, wow, look at that. That's
it fooled
amazing.
People who came to my place.
I bought NFL 2K at launch.
Wow.
I'm like, that's how far that thing pushed me. I went and the thing, of course, I remember we went to my friend Andrew and I. We were like, this was the period, for whatever reason, we were dead set against pre-ordering anything. We refused to pre-order. We refused to give them any of our money until they were going to give us a product. That was a big deal for us. For whatever reason, we were 100%
not
sure.
Gonna do it.
No matter what happened, he's like, "Did you pre-order? No, give me the fucking game.
Yeah,
we'll go find it somewhere else." So we did that. So we went to Valco, which was this mall down near San Jose, which I don't think exists anymore.
Probably most malls don't.
Or if it is, it's a big empty thing with like one food court or something.
Yeah.
And they had an EB and a software, etc., and a independent local store with like 2 locations and a couple malls called Digital Stuff. And there was a huge line at EB. The software, etc., wasn't getting any. They were the PC store. The EB had a line around the corner all the way out of the mall to get the Dreamcast. And they're like, no, if you don't have a pre-order, you're not going to get one. So we went down to the ass end of the dark part where they don't even turn the lights on, and that's where Digital Stuff was. We walked in and we're like, you guys got any Dreamcasts? They're like, we got 2. And so we're like, we'll take them. So we got them, and we walked back out past the line, and it was like, what?
That's great. I got mine at Software, etc. I pre-ordered it. Unfortunately, I broke your rule, and I did pre-order it. I still have the receipt from Software, etc. in Philadelphia. It's still in my Dreamcast box. And it is also crazy to think, Matt, that we are coming up on the 25th anniversary of Sega leaving the hardware business. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's been over 2 decades since Sega made a console. That's pretty crazy, man, other than their micro consoles. But yeah, time has just flown by. Like, it's really kind of scary, honestly.
The entire Tech TV G4 saga happened after all.
I know.
It was all that.
It's crazy. So
the first broadcast television thing I ever produced was the Alien Front Online review for Dreamcast. I was originally scheduled to cut that on September 12th, 2001.
Yeah. And Keith Apicary would be proud, Zed Saber said. Do you know who Keith is? Mm-mm. He was this crazy, like, physical comedian who worked in game. He worked with us at Game Trailers on a couple things for a while. Now he's been on, like, Dancing with the Stars and, like, all. And now he's kind of a comedian, like a physical comedian. He's been in a bunch of commercials, but he worked with us for a while at Game Trailers doing some stuff with us, and he was a huge Dreamcast fan. It was like his whole shtick.
Mm-hmm. And then no, the Legacy Dreamcast is not region free.
Yeah.
But when the American one came out, I did have a mod chip put in it so it could play everything.
Yeah, it's very easy now.
And I still have it. I still have both of them, actually.
Ed Rock the True says, I remember that day vividly. My mom let me leave school early. She picked me up and got my pre-order from EBX, which also doesn't exist anymore. No. I mean, I remember that day like it was yesterday, going into Software Etc. and getting my Dreamcast. And I got like 3 launch games. I went home, and my buddy Carl, who I've talked about, he's the DJ who had the strokes. He was waiting for me to come back because I was living in an apartment above his, and we just sat there and played it all day long. Good times, really formative years for me as far as like what I was going to do for the rest of my life. So I have a lot of affinity for the Dreamcast. May it rest in peace.
And as a Sega fan, like that was it's the end of that era.
Yeah.
And it was certainly, I mean, I love the Saturn. Has a couple of my favorite games of all time on it, but the Dreamcast certainly did better in terms of presenting a wider, broader library of more stuff that I think holds up today.
It just showed me what the future of games were going to look like. Like the N64 and the PlayStation 1 were like rough approximations. Dreamcast was the first console where I was like, oh, okay.
Well, I
see now.
I remember like saying like at the time, like with the PlayStation 1 stuff, like no one's going to, like this is not going to age well.
Right.
Like people are going to, it's going to be very hard to go back to any of these games because they look awful even today, really. But it's the best we got. And people are like, no, these are never going to, and sure enough, like no, even that, remember that brief period where like putting intentional polygon jitter and stuff and things was like, no, not really pixel art, is it? There's a charm and there's no charm. But like Dreamcast, like you said, you saw Dreamcast, you're like, oh, this is where we're going. And then PlayStation 2 obviously even took it to another level. Like,
and off we go.
And then it was very clear where we were headed. It was the first thing that felt like a jump past Metal Gear Solid.
It convinced me to do this, the Dreamcast. That's why I'm sitting here right now. So I'll always be very thankful for Sega and the Dreamcast. Yeah.
And Sega was such a weird company, and they did such strange like things with almost for no reward. I remember the first time I lived in LA, I moved down here in 2000, and that was right around the time Seaman came out. And my roommates were so fucking confused by that game
because it was so weird.
And like
you had the little microphone.
Ryan would constantly try to talk, and like he was frustrated because like he's like, well, because it was when they were all little babies swimming around, and he's like, well, you can't. I'm like, no, you have to wait until they grow up. He's like, you have to what? You have to wait. Like he didn't get. Like,
he couldn't comprehend that they were going to grow in a video game.
And that was when they were all swimming around going
tadpoles,
and he'd lean into the microphone and be like, hi, hello, and he's like, speak English, talk to me, speak English. And at one point, one of the little tadpoles turns to the camera and goes, why is it Americans always think everyone has to speak English?
Yeah,
yeesh.
Like the first thing he says. Yeah,
and then like, and he's like, we're like, what? And like and he only does it once. He never repeats that.
Yeah.
And like I remember watching him be blind. It was one of the rare times I'll always remember like this moment where this game like blew this person's mind, and he like, oh my god, I can't believe that. He's like, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Like,
it's like my mom playing Super Mario 64 for the first time. I'll never forget her face when she just pushed the stick a little bit and he started like creeping, and then she shoved it the whole way and he started running and she just burst into laughter. I'll never forget it. And in fact, I played a game this week that kind of did the same thing. We're about to talk about it. So,
but did that game have Leonard Nimoy telling you that your Seaman was cold?
It did not. Or just Leonard Nimoy saying the word Seaman over and over again. So anyway, there you go. Those are our headlines for GameFace episode 402. We're about to start talking about the games we've been playing this week, but before we do, here's a word from our awesome sponsor, LS Cream. LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted. People, if you do not have a bottle of LS Cream in your liquor cabinet right now, or just sitting on your counter waiting to be mixed with something awesome, what are you doing? Go to creamls.com/sifted. Go there, find a bottle locally, or you can use the online form there to figure out where you can buy them online. There's also a store locator So in case you haven't been able to find it locally, you can find out a way to get it. And Matt, I will say one thing. While I was back in Pennsylvania, I learned that in Pennsylvania, they're about to start allowing you to buy wine and pre-mixed drinks at convenience stores and grocery stores.
Welcome to the 20th century, Pennsylvania.
So like White Claw and drinks like that, where they're just pre-mixed like liquor drinks. They're gonna start being sold at convenience stores and grocery stores. The weirdest thing of all,
all that shit is so weird to me.
It's so weird. The weirdest thing of all is that you can buy beer at grocery stores there, but it is this weird store inside the grocery store that has its own walls, and you walk in, you have to pay separately for the beer, and then you walk out of that little fake store and go and pay for the rest of the stuff. It is insane. That state is bonkers, by the way. To have two huge cities and a third city, Harrisburg, that's pretty big, and to live that backwards is mind-boggling.
The fact that things like the blue laws and things like that have never been rescinded. I'm like,
it's crazy.
Why do you live like that? It's so fucking weird.
Anyway, if you live in Pennsylvania, you need to go to your state store. You need to demand LS Cream at the liquor stores there. I brought it up. I was like, hey, how does liquor get into the liquor store here? And they're like, oh,
they're like a truck.
What's wrong? Right. Well, they're like, well, there's this process where it goes through the government and they need to okay it and then they disseminate it down. I'm just like, are you kidding me? Just get LS Cream. I told them, go to creamls.com/sifted and order some LS Cream into this damn liquor store right now. So anyway, if you're out there and you can't find it, go to your store and demand it. Tell them to go to creamls.com/sifted. Make sure they use that URL and order some damn LS Cream. It is amazing. You will love it. I promise you. Go and buy it. The Abrams says, can you buy cigarettes at convenience stores in the USA? Yes. But they're now like $20 a pack.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't remember the last time I saw someone smoking an actual cigarette.
Nobody smokes in California. I went to draft. One of the people in our league had started smoking again.
Wow.
After he had quit like 30 years ago. I'm like, what are you doing? You quit. Why would you start again? He's like, the same story smokers always give you when they start again. No, I don't really smoke. I just get a pack, and it's like, okay, I don't know where this is all headed. But he told me, that's how I found out the prices. The prices in Philly were $15 a pack. The prices in New York City are $20 a pack.
Wow.
You never see people smoking here. Even if you drive by a bar late at night, that used to be where you would see them for a while. Nobody.
No.
Nobody here smokes. I can't remember the last time I saw somebody smoking here. No, even vaping disappeared. Nobody even vapes here. It's really bizarre.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, go buy LS Cream. You won't regret it. We talk about it all the time how awesome it is. It is freaking awesome. You will love it. It mixes so great with everything. Go to creamls.com/sifted and get yourself a bottle right now. And with that, it's time to start talking about the games. And we're going to kick it off with what a lot of people are calling a Game of the Year contender. We'll get to that in a minute, but we're going to talk first about Astro Bot. It is a 3D platformer, and there aren't enough of those anymore, and there definitely aren't enough 3D platformers that can hold Nintendo's jock. Mm-hmm. And this game can hold Nintendo's jock and then some. We were talking a minute ago, I was talking about my mom playing Super Mario 64 for the first time and how she lost her shit. I also kind of lost my shit the first time I played it as well. I'll just cop to it.
I think about everybody did. I mean, when I got that N64, that was why people requested I bring to a New Year's party so everyone could play Mario. Yeah. And then people came over to see it, and people I'd known for 10 years who had never touched a video game all wanted to play Mario 64. They all took turns playing Mario 64. I'd never seen anything like it before.
Yep.
That was when I knew that the 3D thing was gonna be what made games go critical mass.
Yep.
And sure enough, it was.
It was. And I would just say this: I had moments like that playing this game.
Yeah.
This game is masterfully crafted. It feels like they brainstormed before they started making this game, and they said, "Hey, what is really fun playing video games? What are those moments that really get you?" And they wrote a bunch of them down, and then they just made those moments that just happen over and over and over again. Like moments where things burst, or when water comes pouring in, or when you see water working with physics and running realistically. Stuff like that. This game has figured out those moments that just trip your trigger. I think particularly, Matt, as like a hardcore gamer. somebody who plays a lot of games and who has discovered these certain things that happen. Like I talked a couple months ago about, I can't remember what the game was, but it was constantly using the thing where you run up and the birds take off. Oh, it's Hellblade 2.
Yeah.
Where the birds take off. And it's like, those are things that games do that a lot of people don't notice that they do all the time, that elicit an emotion from the player when it happens. That's what this game is. It is just those moments just packaged over and over and over again in very compelling ways, and in ways that you don't see coming. Mm-hmm. This game caught me off guard with stuff. I was like, oh my God. It just over and over and over again. Like, I started playing this. The first couple hours of this will really shock you with how awesome it is. And I started playing it, and I sent you a message. I'm like, hey, by the way, man, like, all these reviews about Astro Bot are legit. Like, it really is that good. Matt, what are your impressions of this game?
Well, I mean, you know how I play games, so I think you will appreciate the gravity of this. I platinumed this game in 3 days.
You already platinumed it. Oh my God.
This game cracks my top 25 of all time. I think it's one of the best things I have ever played.
Wow. I'm not surprised though. I'm really not, because it is that effing good.
It is that good. It is the best platform anything I have played since Mario Galaxy 2.
It really is.
And it is on par with the Mario Galaxy games. It is.
Yep.
It is a delight. It is an absolute joy. And it just doesn't fucking stop. Like, you're like, when you get to this thing and you're like, there's like 40 levels in this fucking thing? Like, and they're all good.
Everyone. There's no throwaways.
I will say this. If you give me one criticism, the lost button levels, where you find the PlayStation button symbols, and they put out 4 intentionally difficult challenge levels.
Yep.
I think in some of those...
They're hard.
They're hard, and they accidentally expose that the platforming is not quite as precise as they maybe think it is.
Yeah.
But, like, other than that, like, when you're not doing the big challenge things... Like, it's just an absolute delight.
It's insane.
It is, like, almost everyone I know who's played this, like, they've all come back and spontaneously said the same thing. This is delightful.
Yeah.
Like, it's the word that everybody uses unprompted.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's absolutely true. And they just keep throwing new stuff at you and new ideas and different ways to use the same abilities and different abilities.
Brilliant.
And over and over, and like and they find a way to pull it all together for the big finale, and that's great. And like. And it is
one of those games where they do pull it all together for the big, at the end. You are using everything that you learn, and games don't do that enough anymore.
No, it's got a lot of old school to it, all the way down to like the way the credits are done.
Oh yeah, like playable credits. Yeah,
like it's like in part it's just like a love letter to gaming all the way back to the PS1. Like it's summarizing this whole PlayStation era we've been in for the last quarter century or so. But on top of that, it's something I would put in the hands of anyone willing to hold a controller.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
nobody will not like Astro Bot.
No, like, I mean, some people don't, but...
How? How could you not like this?
They're console war people. I've seen people arguing about it, or like the weird Nintendo people who think it's all ripoff of Mario stuff.
And there's some of that in there.
Oh, sure. But
it's like, a big ripoff of Super Mario Sunshine in a lot of ways. The way you use the water
there's
rockets
elements of everything and everything. I mean, you could say that the boxing glove power-up is similar to ARMS. You could say that, a lot of the rocket stuff is similar to stuff in Galaxy. Mm-hmm. Like, there's stuff like that. There's things you can see. But again...
Who cares?
You find me a game that isn't influenced by a Nintendo game somewhere.
Yeah. Who cares? It's great. Like, I don't care who made it.
They set the standard, and the problem has historically been that almost no one else can reach that standard. But this one does.
Yeah, until now. This one definitely does.
While Sony was shutting down Concord after 11 days, the remnants of Japan studio put out one of the best games ever made.
It really is insane.
It's
better
bonkers.
I think it's better than Super Mario Odyssey.
Oh, agree, 100%. 100%.
This game is...
Also, someone on Twitter said that this game is just like a by the numbers, like put everything together in a platformer and show off the gimmicky new controller, and then throw in some nostalgia and everybody thinks it's good. I'm like, are you talking about this game or Super Mario Odyssey? Because that's both of them. That's both those games. If you want to be cynical about it, that describes both of them.
No, here's the thing though. This game cuts out all the shit. Mm-hmm. Like there's no bloat in this game at all. I read a quote from one of the developers after I had finished the game. I started going back and like looking through stuff. Where he's like, look, man, we'd rather make a 14-hour game that is just kick-ass from beginning to end than put parts in it that you don't want to play through. And that reminded me of Super Mario Odyssey. Like, the first, 30 hours of that game, I was like, this is a good 3D Mario game. After that, I was like, I don't really want to play through this stuff anymore.
Same. Well, you know how, if you've played Mario Odyssey, you know how, awesome and cool and exciting and kind of just joyous it was when you got to New Donk City and they did the big musical number with Paulette.
Yeah.
This game does that every 5 fucking minutes.
It does, yeah.
It's crazy. There's the tree level. There's a tree level in the second galaxy that is it's like the antimatter of the Great Mighty Pooh level from it's like the
Concord.
positive version of that from Conker's Bad Fur Day. But any other game, that would be the best thing in the game.
Oh yeah,
it would be imagine if.
And then you get to the next level in this.
Imagine if all of Super Mario Wonder was just that singing Yoshi or that singing Piranha Plant level,
right?
Over and over. It was imagine it just gave you something that cool every goddamn 10 minutes. Yeah. That is this game.
That's what this is. It really is. It cuts out the crap in every element. This moment right here. So satisfying. Yep. Oh my God. I'm like, oh my God, this is happening.
And periodically it'll just be like, oh, hit this thing. Oh, we're just going to generate 4,000 objects that you can run around in and knock over and spin around.
And then you fall into this water where there's all these fish swimming. It's just freaking mind-blowing.
It's just there to delight you. It's just there to entertain you.
This game is sublime, people. It is so good. It even chops the design down to the very essence of it. The gameplay loop is very simple. You play through all the levels in a galaxy, then you fight the boss, you beat the boss, then you play an absolutely incredible PlayStation-themed homage level.
Invariably with an absolute banger of a dance remix of the theme of that game.
Yeah, that game.
The God of War thing is by that
God
soundtrack.
of War level, by the way, is absolutely incredible. All of them all. All the theme levels are incredible.
And a lot of times you'll see oh, that's cute that they did this, and then it just keeps going. Yeah. There's any other game would have been oh, here's a little area of God of War for you to play. No, it's a full fucking level.
It's a full level.
And you get God of War powers, and you're solving God of War puzzles. And the Uncharted thing, you're pushing your crates around
Uncharted stuff,
and solving things with his journal. It's all there.
And you got a gun with the cover. Yeah, it's all there. And so you finish that level, and you earn a ship part. And then as you saw in the opening cinematic, your ship has wrecked, which is a PlayStation 5. And you're trying to repair your ship and get off the planet.
Which is just the Astro Bot premise, really. Yeah. It's you really need to glue that shit or something.
Yeah. And then you go back to, this little home area where your wrecked ship is. You use the part that you just got to install into the ship. And then all these little Astro Bots that you collect, there's 7 in each level. You use those to go back to that shipwrecked area and build it into a level all on its own. It has its own areas with gameplay and its own Astrobots to rescue. You use the Astrobots to build bridges and open up new accessible areas at the crash site. It's very simple. And that gameplay loop just repeats over and over again.
And even this is the best ending of a platformer level idea I've seen in 20 years.
it's seriously.
And then you go back to the thing, and you eventually build the puzzle pieces, build the new buildings. You can build a little gacha capsule store where you spend the coins you get to get
more gacha capsules.
You get
which are more bots and cosmetics.
It's all it's some of it's cosmetics for the controller and for Astro Bot, but most of it are little signature items for the PlayStation brand tie-in IP bots you find that then let them do some reference to their own game when you hit them.
Yep. Here is the shipwreck area. This is the hub that you go back to. So after you've rescued a bunch of bots, you use them to expand this area, basically. And there's little puzzles that you complete, like the what was it called? Street Pass on 3DS, where you pass people and you get puzzle pieces to put your puzzles together. You get that here. You have this whole puzzle thing that you're putting together when you go back to this shipwrecked area. It's very easy to follow, but everything is just top-notch quality, just incredible. From beginning to end, this game is just incredible. Some of the creative stuff, I want you to share some of the stuff that really stood out for you, Matt, but here's a couple things for me that I was just blown away by. There's a casino level where enemies throw cards at you, and the special ability you get in that level is the ability to stop time. And so they throw the cards at you, and it's creating these platforms of cards. And if you pause it at the exact right time, it creates this stairway that you run up on the cards to attack the enemies. It is just freaking brilliant. There's a sponge level where, and you've seen in some of the trailers where you can turn into like this gigantic Astro Bot. Well, the thing is like he's a sponge that's filling up with water, and you can use that to attack enemies and destroy stuff, which is very rewarding and very fun. But ultimately, you get to these areas where you have to release the water from the sponge Astro Bot for these platforms that then soak up the water to become big enough that you can then platform on them. It is just...
Or use it to, like, put out fires and create platforms on lava. Yeah. And, like, it just goes on and on.
This right here, like the Good and Plenty candy, just running around and spraying it everywhere and, like, felt amazing.
And they land in the controller, and you can bounce the controller. And
they bounce around.
And all this.
Everything about this game is just incredible.
And it has the best, like, HD rumble effects I've ever seen or felt. Like, you feel every some of this stuff right is super clever. The way they make things like feel like you're walking on certain surfaces or against certain things. It's over and over and over. You're just like, oh, this is like it's like a platonic ideal of what a PlayStation 5 game should be.
The difficulty curve is perfect. So in each level you have like 7 of the Astro Bots to find. Like, they're not so hard to find that they drive you crazy, but like 1 or 2 of them you have to look around and think a little bit. It's perfect.
You do have to learn the language of the game a little bit. And I found by the end of the game, by the last 2 galaxies, I wasn't having trouble finding them anymore because I understood how the game developers thought.
And like, it's very easy. You don't have to work that hard to make sure you get all of them your first time through. And
they're all in order. If you skipped one in the list, you know you missed one,
and you know where to go back to try to get it.
And if you go back after the level's done, you can usually backtrack. They're usually pretty nice about letting you backtrack. But if you go back in the level afterwards and go get the thing you missed, if you then quit out of the level, you get to keep the thing you don't have to finish the level. You just get the thing you needed, leave the level, you keep everything you picked up. Fantastic.
This game just has moments like this that just feel so good, where you're just like, oh, watching all this stuff get destroyed and everything crashing down. It's like watching some of the playing this game is a lot like watching like the power wash videos on YouTube, where it just has this very satisfying vibe.
And it never drops a frame. It never chugs. It's never crowded.
It runs like a beast.
Incredible.
And it does have these little like puzzle pieces that you can find. Like, if you're the type of person who likes to scour every nook and cranny of a level, there's that for you too. Like, it literally has everything. And if you are a PlayStation fan, this is crack. Yeah. This is a wet dream for PlayStation fans. Like, it literally has every property in it and does an excellent job of creating an homage to each one of them.
There's only one that I could think of that wasn't in this.
What?
Primal.
Yeah, you're right.
But no one remembers Primal.
Yeah, so most people won't even remember it.
No. I remember. Preppage Farm remembers Primal.
This game is awesome,
and there's secret levels everywhere.
Yeah, so once you get to this,
one there.
Yeah, once you get to this like map screen area, like stuff will just start flying through, like a little asteroid. And if you fly your ship into the asteroid, it'll blow up and it will reveal like a level that you can play through. There's other like little things that fly through. There's like very simple levels that you play, and then once you complete that, then it unlocks what Matt was talking about earlier, the more difficult, like really tough gauntlet levels that are based upon the triangle, square, circle controller stuff.
There's one level, the X. So there's some controversy that they do call the X the cross.
Yeah,
and
I've heard it called that before.
Which I mean, that is the official name. They're all shapes. Yeah. You want to be a cross, it should be vertical though.
No, I hear you.
I'm going to call it the X button forever. Sorry, but
just every moment of this game, stuff is always happening. That's awesome.
There's one X level, which is like it's the fire one, and that is one of the most annoying platforming levels I have ever played.
Yeah, there's a couple challenging.
There's a few of the lost button levels are all the ones. They're the ones that I swore the most about.
Yeah. But not that much. Like, still, they were never frustrating. Like, I could always see where the next time I'll get past that.
No, I thought they were frustrating in the sense that there's a bunch of times when I'm like, I know what I need to do, I know what you want me to do, and I just cannot get the fucking game to do it. Which was just annoying to me. And I was trying to figure out, like, is this my old man reflexes, or is this game? No, it's just a little inconsistency in how the game works sometimes. And usually that doesn't matter. Because the 99% of this game doesn't demand that level of precision. But there's like 3 levels that do. And if you're a completionist, like I decided to go for the platinum, And I was like, I gotta finish this, and there was yelling. I'm thank God the windows in this house are soundproof.
Yeah.
Because otherwise the neighborhood would have been subjected to some very creative swearing around 2 a.m. the other night.
Each level in this game has a power up, and they're smart. Like eventually, they start to realize, okay, we have a couple that are freaking awesome. This is one that's awesome. The punching gloves.
I would argue there aren't any bad ones.
There aren't any bad ones, but there are some that are like awesome.
I mean, I certainly like the sponge and the time freeze better than the others.
I like the gloves because they're very they feel very good with the controller. Like the tactical feedback when you land the punches feels great. And it's versatile. You can use it in combat or for puzzle solving. So I really liked it. But again, like they're all great, and every level has like its own cool little thing. Now they will like double up on like the cool ones, like the boxing gloves one. You get a couple
boxing
different
gloves
times.
comes out a lot. The rocket chicken comes out a lot.
The super jump
actually, my
one.
other favorite one is the metal ball suit.
Oh, that's a good one too.
I like that one a lot
There's
because that
so
creates a lot of pinball stuff.
Yeah. There's just so many amazing moments in this game. Here's the other thing too. It's only $60. This is not a $70 game. I would have easily paid $70 for this game and not thought
100%.
twice about it. I don't know why.
If you have a PS5, you should have this game.
Yes, it is absolutely a Game of the Year contender. There's no doubt about it.
And I think it's also interesting. I think it's worth noting. I think you and I agree that the PlayStation release schedule this year has been pretty, let's say, anemic.
Yes,
to be
that's
kind
being kind.
about it. Yeah. But for most people, the Game of the Year, barring a Dragon Age miracle, for most people, the Game of the Year argument is going to come down to 2 PlayStation exclusives.
Do you think?
This and Final Fantasy.
Maybe.
And I'm not on the side of Final Fantasy. But Final Fantasy Rebirth and this are the 2 highest rated games of the year.
Yeah.
And that's what the conversation is going to be about. And that's remarkable.
We'll see. We have a couple more games coming out here, but yeah.
I don't see anything else coming out this year able to touch that unless Dragon Age turns out to be real good.
I mean, I love 3D platformers. I always have. I have a weak spot for them. And so, yeah, I mean, this is definitely on my hot list. There's no doubt about it. Again, like, to play one like this that is so excellent from start to finish and has no filler.
Well, especially
no
because we haven't... When was the last time we did that?
I can't remember.
Probably Galaxy 2.
Because every game has to be bloated now, Matt. Every game has to last for 100 hours.
Well, and also nobody makes... I mean, and I know this isn't just my nostalgia for 3D platformers talking, because if that was true, I would have liked Yooka-Laylee, and I didn't.
Right. I didn't really like it either. I was very disappointed in it, for sure. Because I really thought those guys could deliver something like this.
And at some points through this, I'm just like, hey, Microsoft, you imagine if you made something even half this good for Banjo?
I know. I don't think they could, though.
Maybe not.
Where'd these people come from?
It's Sony. It's Japan.
I know, but what the hell? Like, how did they make a game so good? Like, it's really crazy. Like this section, watching the water slide back and forth on this platform. Like, I just liked watching the physics in this game half the time.
And those are invisible platforms you can only see when the goo
syrup
is on
gets on. I know. It's just, people, go buy this game. You will not, if you even have a slight inkling for games like this, go buy it. Like, if you have kids, go buy it. It's incredible. I've started seeing the reviews, and I had not played it. And I was like, wow, okay, well, we'll see. And then within 2 hours, I was like, oh, okay. I totally get it. Like, this game is freaking sublime. Like, it is really, really good. I can't believe it comes from this studio. It's just mind-boggling. The whole thing is insane. That PlayStation has created a 3D platform as good as any of Nintendo's.
Mm-hmm. It has that quality that, like, Into the Spider-Verse had, where you're like, how did this escape Sony?
I know.
Like, it's like, and the Concord thing keep making me think of how, like, one of the reasons Into the Spider-Verse is so good is because Sony Animation was completely focused on frame fucking what they thought was going to be their next big hit of all time, which was the Emoji Movie. And that's why Into the Spider-Verse was allowed to kind of be what it was.
Yeah.
And there's a weird coincidence where it's like, were you frame fucking Concord so hard that you didn't pay attention to the fucking masterpiece that was being made down the street?
I mean, I don't think PlayStation realized it, because there's been like no marketing for this game.
No, well, it hasn't sold very well.
It's had like 3 trailers the entire time.
Like, this should have been pushed as the biggest game of the year for this platform, because that's what it is.
It is, absolutely. It's easily the best game, without a doubt.
Oh, without,
I mean, you've watched the B-roll people. It's just been one
Look
awesome
at this.
moment after another.
He just does it over. All the boss battles are fucking amazing, and they're all different, and they're all their own ideas, and
yep.
But they're all communicated well enough that you never are confused as to what you have to do.
I was never confused on anything in this game. I always knew what I needed to do is whether I was good enough to do it or not. I love games like that, where you know what you're trying to do. It's not like half of the struggle is like, well, am I supposed to be doing this? Am I not? Am I wasting my time? Am I blah, blah, blah? Like,
and seeing all the characters pop up is fun, and like some of them are such deep cuts I didn't even know they fucking were.
Yeah.
And some of them I was like, is that whatever? I'm like, oh my god, you madmen! Like there's some characters in here that I'm just like, I can't believe anyone remembers that but me.
Even the people at PlayStation. Yeah. And
although, like I said, there's an element of like, if you remember all these things, why aren't you doing anything with them?
And then there's the whole Ape Escape level, which is the closest thing to playing Ape Escape we're probably ever going to get again. Like, it's just...
And the only... in terms of all that and the nostalgia and kind of like in the kind of the celebration of PlayStation, I think the only downside is there are no Square characters in this. Because Square
said
downside,
no. Matt?
Well, I mean, look, you know I don't like Final Fantasy VII, but the fact that there's no Final Fantasy VII characters in this is ridiculous.
There are some third-party
there's tons of third-party. There's Sega stuff, Konami stuff, Namco
Metal
stuff,
Gear.
Capcom. The Resident Evil stuff is hilarious. Like, all that stuff is great. What I'm saying is Square said no to this because Square
clueless.
Square is incredibly dedicated to making the wrong choice at all times.
It feels like it.
So I know they've talked about adding more stuff and doing DLC and expanding it with free DLC, and I'm like, hey, Square, fucking sign the fucking contract and get the Final Fantasy characters in this and Kingdom Hearts characters in here because Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
What a mistake.
It's ridiculous that this is like this big... I mean, you know I don't give a shit about the Square stuff, that I don't care about any... I don't like Final Fantasy for the most part. But it makes me sad that there's no Cloud in this.
Yeah.
Because he should be here.
And they could have done fun stuff with him, and
they
found ways to do fun stuff with everybody else.
It's part of the PlayStation brand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like there's so many things in here that are not, PlayStation's.
He's as big a mascot
stuff
for PlayStation as any of these other characters.
Absolutely. Sora and Cloud should be in here. Leon should be in here.
Yeah.
Squall, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
That also turned 25 yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Final Fantasy 8.
That's true. Yeah.
Nobody cares.
We're getting old. We're the only ones old enough to remember this stuff. It's crazy. So anyway, that is 2 huge thumbs up from GameFace for Astro Bot. If you haven't bought it already, go buy it right now.
Barry Lomax, Tekken is in it. Yes.
Yeah.
There is a Tekken. Sly Cooper is in it. Yes.
Justin Horman asks, is Astro Bot the solution to the no games have been releasing on PS5 problem, or just the start of the solution? I mean, it's just one game.
It's one game. It's almost like a reminder of like, oh right, this is
they
what
actually
it's like
make good games
sometimes.
Yeah. It's actually more of a reminder of how terrible the release schedule has been for PlayStation for a really long time. Swanland asks, Astro Bot had the best water level on a 3D platformer so far. Which one?
I mean, pick one.
Yeah. Some of the water levels in Banjo-Kazooie were pretty good.
They're pretty good, but this one, I was impressed by how well they all controlled in this.
Everything,
Never had a problem swimming up or down or here or getting there. There's a trophy for jumping out of the water and swimming through a particular hoop in one level.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm not looking forward to getting that. I did it in one try.
Yeah. Most of the stuff in this, you do get it in one try.
It just does what you... I mean, a lot of times it just knows what you want to do.
And it does it that way.
That's part of the challenge and irritation of the lost button challenges is, I think they turn off some assists.
Maybe.
I think they're a little more demanding of that. And they turn the enemy aim up.
Yeah. No, they do. If they're shooting from like way far away, you can't sit on a platform and wait.
You get hit by shit that you would not get hit by in a normal level.
You're right. Yeah.
Which I think is kind of bullshit.
Little slimy.
Little cheap.
I think they put those in there, though, for people like us.
Yeah, they put it in for the people who are like, I got all the Luigi coins.
Or just like, I walked through this game. Like, I need some kind of a challenge.
Yeah, challenge. I mean, you are going to platinum this game if you've gotten through Mario 64 and the Galaxies, you are going to platinum this game if you put the time into it and bother to look up the ones where they want you to do stupid tricks for no reason. Because some of those you might not find yourself, but like getting through every single level, I think most veterans can do it.
Oh yeah, and with all 7 bots usually.
Yeah.
If you even try to look for them. Even if you don't, you'll get like 5 of the 7.
Well, and you don't even... I mean, when you go back into a level, you can break the birdhouse at the beginning, pay 200 coins, and the bird will chirp at you every time you're near a secret you didn't find.
Yep.
So there's no... You will 100% find it. That game will show you where everything is if you decide to do that.
Yeah.
But you should save those coins to get more gacha capsules, so you can make the PlayStation characters do funny things.
Yeah. So anyway, Astro Bot kicks all sorts of ass. It is awesome. I know there's some people that don't like games like this because they're kiddie or get over it, man. This game is
if you
awesome.
I will steal a line from the GameSpot review of Soul Calibur from the Dreamcast 25 years ago this week.
Perfect.
Which, unfortunately, at the time was actually defending the fact that the reviewer thought that Shanghua's ass was nice. But I will paraphrase it to say, if you do not think Astro Bot is an absolute delight, then you can just go away because you're obviously no fun at all.
You're kind of miserable, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what to say to someone who does not like this.
I don't either. I don't think I can connect with them mentally.
This is one of those games where I'm like, if you like video games,
you should love this game.
I don't know. This is video games.
It is. To me, you're right. It's the epitome of the video game. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. So, wow, lots of questions about this. AJ, The Legend Watson, do you think Sony wishes, based on the reception of the game, that they had created collector's editions?
That's a very good question.
Maybe. AJ also
I will say this. If they don't immediately rush every imaginable kind of merch into production, if you don't have plush Astro Bots of every single PlayStation character on the shelf by Christmas, you're
doing it wrong.
You have dropped the fucking ball, my friends.
AJ also says that PlayStation was listening when I said that developers don't make games fun anymore. Yeah, that's what all this game is.
Japan Studio was listening. Japan Studio knew.
Retro Modern Gamer says, hopefully with Concord's failure and Astro Bot's success, it's a reminder to Sony that single-player games and not games as a
There's something to learn here. Hopefully this is their Jedi Fallen Order moment here.
Cinetyke says, do you think they will release this on PC eventually? Yes, I do.
Yeah,
I think they'll release everything on
I think they will.
PC eventually, yeah. I think it'll be okay.
There's no reason not to.
Maybe 18 months from now, but yeah, I think eventually they will. So there you go. That's Astro Bot, definitely on our short list for Game of the Year for 2024. And before we go on to our next game, here's a word from our sponsor, The Lands of Hyberian. Welcome to The Lands of Hyberian, an old-school turn-based RPG with a point-and-click adventure vibe. It's under development by Sifter Hussein Stealthy Zaban. He's trying to finish his first ever video game, but he needs your help. The game currently includes around 4 hours of content, complete with 49 achievements. But his goal is to improve what he's already created and add another 2 hours before it's complete. Right now, as part of this special promotion, you can purchase this game for just $1. That goes towards things like trading cards, replacing AI art, voice acting, and the soundtrack. While it's certainly not required, Stealthy is hoping you'll provide as much feedback as possible to make this the first video game truly crafted by the Sifted community. There's work to be done, but Sifted Army, let's band together and try to make the best game possible. It's in Steam Early Access right now, and you can find a link to its product page in the description below, or just search for The Lands of Hyberian on Steam. Let's do this! That's right, people. Head to Steam and search for The Lands of Hyberian. If you're listening to this show and not watching it, it's spelled Hyberian. The game is for sale there for just $1. That's pretty much as cheap as Stealthy can make the game. And this is very important. Stealthy is a sifter just like you guys. So if you're somebody who has thought to yourself, man, I might be interested in making games, and you're kind of looking for a project that maybe you can jump on that has already been started and is well on its way, The Lands of Hyberian is a great game, and I don't know if Stealthy is looking for feedback from you guys, because he knows you guys know games, and you guys know how to make a great game, or at least you know what it should be in a great game. So again, go to Steam, search for The Lands of Hyberian, buy the game for $1, go to sifted.net, look up Stealthy, it's spelled just as you expect, send him a DM, say, I got the game, I'm interested in helping you make the game better, and you will be, one, you'll make a new friend, which is always awesome, and two, suddenly, you'll be a game developer. Seriously, that's all it takes is a little bit of commitment. Again, it's just $1, go to Steam, search for Lands of Hyberian, pick it up, give it a play, talk to Stealthy, help him make the game better, everybody wins. And again, that is The Lands of Hyberian. And with that, it's time to talk about our next game, and we're going to discuss Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. Matt, this game is sitting at around an 83, 84 Metacritic. I'll admit I only got to play about 4 or 5 hours of this because I just could not pull myself away from Astro Bot.
I only played the first chapter of this because after that Astro Bot came out, and
that was it.
I just never went. I mean, to be fair, I'd have to go to the other room. I'd have to move my stuff to the office instead of the living room to play it. And instead, I just decided to finish Astro Bot last night.
Sit on the couch. Yeah.
So nothing, no shade to Space Marine 2.
Yeah.
I like Space Marine 2, but it is no Astro Bot.
Well, to be fair, I did play a good bit further than you did, and I would just say that if you played the first couple hours of this, you played the next 3 hours of this.
I felt that. I did feel that. Yes.
I'll say this. It is easily the best looking and probably best playing Warhammer game that I have ever experienced.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you can tell the budget was put into this. It's probably the biggest budget ever for a Warhammer video game.
Well,
my guess.
I went back to I played the first one a bit.
From 2011.
2011, the anniversary edition, so a little updated.
Yeah.
But old enough still that you have to go into the options and turn on controller to use a controller. Remember that?
Vaguely.
And so I played that a bit just to refresh things, and then like playing this, it definitely has similar idea, like the combos ending with the finishers that can like stun things, knock them away, and make them vulnerable to executions. Except this one does it way better. Like, it feels much better to play than the old one. It should, obviously. The old one's a 13-year-old game.
Yeah.
But, like, the fact that they took it and they evolved the gameplay and they made it feel better, but it's still recognizably the same series. It's this different developer, so you never know what new twist but I think they did a really good job of taking this and bringing it into the modern day and making it feel good to play from a modern perspective while still, recognizing that it's the same series as the first game and the same character as the first game.
This is basically Horde Mode, the video game. It's basically you go into an area, it gets flooded by literally like thousands of alien insects. They come in, you fight them. I don't know what happened to the B-roll there.
Yeah. Well, it dipped to black because that's what happened. He gets knocked out there.
Oh, right. And they flood the area, and then you have to kill them all. And at first, it seems almost like impossible. You have both melee and a gun, and there are 5 different classes? Is that right? 5 or 6, I think.
Of what?
Classes in the game.
Like online, I guess. I don't pay attention.
So there are classes that you can play as.
My class is Commander Titus.
Yeah.
I don't care about that.
Well, when you start playing online, you can actually choose classes, and they matter a little bit, but not a ton. But there's 5 different classes that you can choose to play as, but they all play predominantly the same. You have what is the chainsaw called? Chainsword, and then you have guns. And it seems insurmountable at first, but what you start to realize is that the guns do a lot more than you think. Like, you think you're shooting 1 or 2 bullets, but it's actually taking out 10 or 15 of the aliens at a time. And so crowd control wise with the guns, you can take out a lot more aliens than you think. Then you also have grenades, and there's some levels where it's like World War Z, where you're up high and the aliens spawn down way down below in this crevasse or whatever, and then they start piling on top of each other to create almost like these ramps that let them run up on themselves to get out of the holes. And you can throw grenades down onto those groups of aliens and just watch them go boom. This game is very satisfying in a gory, violent kind of, I didn't think I could do that way. But the other thing I would say, Matt, is that it does get monotonous pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think much like the first one, I think it probably takes a little too long to switch opponents.
Yeah.
Because in the first one, you start out fighting orcs, and you end up fighting the Chaos Space Marines, basically, and the Ruinous Powers. And I believe the same thing happens here, except you start out fighting the Tyranids.
Yep.
The Tyranids are, like you say, they are the Zerg. Actually, more accurately, the Zerg are Tyranids.
Yeah.
Because StarCraft basically stole
the
entire premise from Warhammer 40K.
Yeah.
And World of Warcraft is pretty much Warhammer fantasy.
Yeah.
So, and the Tyranids are fun in this because, Tyranids traditionally are sort of the, when a Warhammer game comes out, the Warhammer fans say, when are you going to add the Tyranids? And the developer inevitably says, not in this engine. Yeah. Because the Tyranids are hard to do.
Yeah. Lots of detail, and you need to make so many of them.
That was the thing with Dawn of War, was they kept adding new races in each new kind of subsequent version of Dawn of War 1 and Dawn of War, and they're like, well, one of the Tyranids, and they're like, Dawn of War 2, maybe.
Yeah.
And but it's cool. They really do them justice here. The flood, like Starship Troopers style floods of just thousands of them. Sometimes it's very impressive. It's a very pretty game.
It is very pretty. In fact, I'm going to put the game up full screen so people can really see it here.
I mean, it's ugly, but it's also very pretty ugly. It's gore and blood and monster. And
this is PS5 B-roll, by the way.
Detail on the armor, the detail on the cloth simulation, like it's and of course, having just played the first one from back in the day, what a leap!
Minority Game says it reminds him of the heavy metal album in motion. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Actually,
that's Warhammer.
It is.
In a nutshell.
I mean, let's be honest. A lot of fantasy came from Warhammer. A lot of people don't want to admit it, but that's the truth.
Well, yeah, I mean, Warhammer comes from basically, I think they basically made a miniatures game out of like how Boris Vallejo paintings made them feel. That's kind of how I go with that, and like it's all kind of satire. It's
like this game's set in the Molly Hatchet album cover.
A little bit.
There's a lot of, believe it or not, there's a lot of defense involved in this game. You really need to learn how to block in time. And I know it sounds insane because you'll start seeing this B-roll. You're trying to block, and you're being attacked by literally like 50 enemies at once. Mm-hmm. But blocking is really the key to crowd control in this because it staggers enemies. Like generally,
it staggers multiple.
Right.
And if you can get a counter, like sometimes one of them will jump at you with the blue, and if you can counter that, you'll do a big old
automatic
thing with
kill,
it. And when you throw the enemy down on the ground, it'll also knock everybody away.
Back. Yeah.
And that usually weaker enemies that'll usually kill. And then if you can stun a bigger enemy to the point that you get the execute prompt, you press you
click the right stick,
and you get to kill them, and it'll give you armor back, which in the middle of a big fight
right there's an execution.
is required because you have the 3 armor bits. You get more later. But you have the 3 armor bits, and once one of them, it's like resistance. Once it goes away, that doesn't regenerate until you get out of the combat or you execute somebody.
Yeah.
And your health,
it's a little bit like Doom, where you're like killing enemies to replenish your armor and health.
And it does a really good way. It's a good way of kind of not making you invincible, but like demonstrating how powerful the Space Marine is.
Yeah, because you're taking on like 1,000 aliens and just kind of shrugging them off.
And they do a very good job. I mean, they do it in the first one too, but they do a very good job in this of demonstrating the difference between a Space Marine and a normal person. Mm-hmm. And also, Titus, this is the same character from the first game. It's about 100 years later, and he has been serving in the Death Watch as penance for going against orders and doing, basically being a moral human being in the first game. Yeah. And in the end, he gets killed basically in the beginning of the game, like planning this bomb and this invasion of the Tyranids, and they rebuild him as a Primaris Space Marine, which is a more recent introduction to the lore. Which is basically a bigger, stronger, more dangerous Space Marine that has like extra organs and is like they basically did it so they could sell you bigger and better miniatures.
And people remember his past too. They know that he was in the Death Watch.
And you'll see like when he gets assigned, like the higher ups know that he was disgraced, and then the rank and file guys are like, they see the little chain on his thing that indicates he was in the Death Watch. And normally serving in the Death Watch is like, that's an elite squad.
A badge of honor.
Yeah. But he served in it because it was his punishment.
Right.
And so he doesn't really talk about it.
They slowly figure it out.
They start to figure it out. But like they also, like you'll see like him and some of the other guys have like these, like they almost look like bullets in their foreheads. Mm-hmm. That's an indicator of their service length. And so they see those on him, and they're like, he's almost 200 years old. Yeah. He's like, what's he doing? Like, what is going on? And so there's sort of a sub-story to that. It doesn't do a very good. If you don't already know what's called the fluff,
which I do not,
it doesn't really onboard you very well in the game. I was
definitely lost.
There's a codex that you can read backstory stuff eventually that helps. I don't know a ton about Warhammer stuff. I know what I learned from the games. I read some Wikipedia articles. I read the Horus Heresy, which is sort of the foundational Space Marine novel. So I don't really know a ton about them, but I do know about the Primaris Marines. Primaris Marines are bigger and stronger. They're about 8.5 to 9 feet tall, and when he walks around normal people, you see it. Like these guys are superhuman cyber monsters. These guys, and like they will stand
ass kickers,
and like like a whole platoon of regular like Imperial Guard soldiers get killed, and one Space Marine gets sent to replace those guys.
Yeah,
and they hold.
And
like they do it.
It works.
Like it's like, and of course it's all in service of this crazy interstellar fascist like cult organization of the Imperium of Man, and everything's like weirdly religious. So like in the setting, like the technology is considered sacred. So like changing is so like following the blueprints of something is like conducting a holy ritual. Oh. But you're not allowed to question or improve. So there's a whole thing like the guy who created the better Space Marines here was a heretic for doing that, but he did it so well that they kind of have to use them. You know, it's a weird balance.
You can see what I was talking about with the gun right there, though. There is like an army of 100 of them, and I just stood in a doorway and just mopped them all up with the gun.
Yeah, the heavy bolter, especially when you get the one with the grenade under it.
Yeah,
like just. You are given the tools you need.
Yeah,
no question. You feel powerful. Like you are overwhelmed sometimes in this game, but you are given the tools to feel powerful at all times.
Yeah,
you just have to use them effectively, which I appreciate.
Yeah, my biggest complaint with this is that it just eventually gets monotonous.
Yeah, it doesn't really evolve.
There's not enough nuance to the combat. Like, so you learn eventually. Matt alluded to it a minute ago, but you learn this combo where you like use your light attack 3 times, and then you pull out your gun and shoot, and then it sets them up for the execution. Mm-hmm. And the other thing about this game...
And the end of that combo, by the way, it sets one guy up for execution, but it also knocks everybody else away.
It also, if you kill all
very effective crowd control.
Yeah. If you kill, like, the lieutenants, all the smaller enemies die. Mm-hmm. So the objective is...
whatever you need to do to kill the lieutenants are probably just going to incidentally kill all the foot soldiers.
Right, so. Yeah. So what you do is anytime they all flood in, you just go for the big guys.
Focus
on
the big guy. And if you get an
execution...
like they can't touch you.
Yeah, because again, when you do the execution, it refills all your health and your armor.
It doesn't refill your health.
Right.
It just refills your armor.
You're right. Your health is like if you eventually get like a mortal wound, and you can die in this and have to go back to like the checkpoint or whatever.
But it's
hard. To die. I only died a couple times, but you can.
But yeah, it does. You know, it felt by the time I stopped playing, not intentionally. I'll play it more. I'll go back to it for sure. But Astro Bot came along and. That was the end of that. Yeah. But you can't really do much more without contradicting the lore, you know, and that's kind of it's kind of got its hands tied there because a regular game would probably make you more and more powerful and give you like crazier and crazier abilities, and you can't really do that in this because
they don't really do that.
No, because Space Marines do it, and like the one thing that you do that piss off Warhammer fans is change anything. Mm-hmm. Even though they change all the time, and one of the mantras of it is like nothing is permanent, everything is up for grabs, and they have changed entire things about. I mean, they introduced an entirely new race at one point. Or like, oh, they went away for a while and now they're back and they were always here. You just didn't see them before. Mm-hmm. Fuck you.
They're under the ground.
It was, and it's like what are you gonna do? You just gotta accept it. But like they don't want to alienate that baseline fan base because that's clearly the main audience of this game. So you can't like make him into like the best Space Marine ever who had psychic powers and developed fireball
stuff.
Yeah, you can't really do that because everyone's going to cry foul on the lore. So you're just sort of like what you see here is kind of what you get.
It is what you get. Yeah. There are rewarding moments though. Like there's sometimes where enemies will jump at you, and if you time your block just right, you'll catch them in midair and just like smash them or slam them down onto the ground.
Yeah, if you learn the combat ins and outs, you feel pretty damn cool.
Yeah,
and like,
but it's just you feel the same cool over and over again, and eventually it starts to lose its charm.
And one thing I will say is like I know people. The first one this happened to. You see a lot of people saying like, "Oh, it's just a Gears of War." This is not a Gears of War game. Like,
it has the similar vibes though.
Well, it's similar vibes in terms of like Gears of War takes a lot of inspiration visually from Warhammer, and like he is in big power armor like the Gears of War guys.
It's really violent,
but
gory.
You cannot take cover in this.
No.
It's not a cover shooter.
There's no
pop and stop. There's no wall bouncing.
No.
And in fact, one of the refreshing things about the multiplayer is that there isn't really a weird pro gamer trick. It's just like use what you got and play better.
Yeah.
And that was actually a little refreshing to a little bit of multiplayer I played.
Yeah, the multiplayer in this,
they've got a whole fucking year-long plan for this, and I feel like that seems
a little ambitious. Yeah.
You know, I don't know how long people are going to play this, really. But
the multiplayer seems like it's cordoned off in its own. Like, you play missions from the campaign, but you don't play straight through the campaign. It's a little weird the way it's set up. And then there is actually, like, competitive multiplayer in this, which I fiddled around with for, like, 2 matches or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna see myself coming back to this.
I mean, it's there if you want to play Warhammer multiplayer. This is your chance.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's gonna crack the shell on anybody who's playing like Call of Duty or whatever.
Yeah, I think the 8.4. This is a little high. I wouldn't have scored it that high.
It is. I mean, I'm not going to argue with it because it's like my 7th pick
on your fantasy team.
And after Outlaws got the 73 or whatever, I'm going to need all the help I can get because I think if Stalker comes out, and it looks like it will.
It is, yeah.
I calculated this. I think the Fantasy League, if I'm predicting the scores of things accurately, I think we're going to be within 1 or 2 points.
Oh my God.
I think it's going to... Here's my prediction. I think you're going to win 791 to 790.
Wow. That would be insane.
Let me see how close I am.
It could go either way, though.
It could, but like, I'm like, okay, I think this... Looking at what you have left and what I have left... I think you win by 1 or 2 points.
We'll see. I'm just excited I have a chance to win it all.
Star Wars Outlaws getting in the 70s is going to kill me.
Yeah.
If it had gotten like an 82, there would be no contest here. But now it's a game.
All right. I'm just excited. I thought it was over already.
No, I do not think it's over at all.
Wow. Red Fox 1980 says this or Black Myth Wukong. They're different games for sure.
That's hard to compare.
I think Black Myth Wukong. It just has more variety.
I think if you don't have any love for Warhammer, Black Myth Wukong.
Yeah.
If you love Warhammer 40K and you want to play and see that world realized, here.
Oh, if you love Warhammer, go buy this game. This is as good as it gets as far as a Warhammer video game.
Yeah, this is like... I mean, I only really kind of very casually like Warhammer 40K, and it's really cool to see all the stuff that I've read about or seen in like Dawn of War and like the miniatures and stuff just here as big as life.
Yeah.
And right, I mean, it's
production
really
values
cool.
are really great.
It's cool to see something.
See the gore. It's
I wish
the blood.
I wish Transformers got games with this level of production.
Yeah,
value. That's what I guess
the
way
blood
I'd say
fountains every time you kill one of the enemies. And obviously, this is not a game you would play with your kids or your children.
Well, maybe if you have cool kids.
Right. Well, as long as your kids are over like 8 or something like that. But it does pull no punches with the gore and the violence, that's for sure. It is one of the most violent games I've played in quite a while. As you can see by the blood fountains just spurting up every time.
Yeah, although it's much like Doom. It's just sort of like it gets
cartoony,
pretty comical after a while.
Yeah. But I do think the 8 whatever is a little bit high. I would probably give this a 7, maybe a high 6, something like that. But much like Star Wars Outlaws, if you're a fan of this IP, it's close to a perfect 10 because there's no interactive experience that is at this level of fidelity for Warhammer, just like it was with Star Wars. So if you're fans of the IP, bump it up a little bit. If you're just looking for like a third-person action game, I would struggle to tell somebody to buy this.
Yeah, it's maybe when it's cheaper.
Yeah, and it will be in the not too distant future.
Especially if it's not, even if you don't like Warhammer, but you like the look of this. If you think this looks cool, that is all it is. It looks cool.
It could turn you into a Warhammer fan, also.
Well, don't do that, because no one can like Warhammer a normal amount. We've established that, and those miniatures are thousands of dollars when you get into them.
Yeah.
And Minority Games, is it better than Rogue Trader? I don't know how to compare those two things.
Yeah, they're so different.
Rogue Trader is like, would you like a Warhammer KOTOR?
Yeah.
And this is, would you like a Warhammer like action shooter?
I would say this is a higher quality game. Just generally.
Somewhat. I mean, in terms of like the genre, it is probably a better example of its genre than Rogue Trader is. But Rogue Trader is one of the best.
It's one of the better
realizations of the Warhammer universe, and it gets more into the politics and the morality or lack thereof of the world you're in. But I don't know. I mean, I think this is more accessible.
Yeah.
So this is how I'd say it. And no, Erebus Jones, it is not sweary. Nobody. I don't think I recall anybody saying anything.
No, it's just violent as all get out.
They're all super Puritan weirdo Knights Templar guys. They don't swear.
Yeah.
Like the Emperor would smite them or something. I don't remember any swearing.
Campaign's not crazy long, but again, there's cooperative play. You can play with other people, and there's competitive multiplayer, so you can squeeze a little bit more playtime out of it. Ultimately. We need to move on. I see questions from you guys, but we can't really answer them.
The only Warhammer book I've ever read is the Horus Heresy. I don't know.
Cinetyke says, can you enjoy it if you don't know anything about Warhammer? I know a little bit about Warhammer. I'm not a big fan. I still enjoyed it, but it did it wore thin pretty quickly.
I think you'll get a lot more out of it if you're familiar with Warhammer.
For sure.
And it's cool. You're like, oh, Tyranids, oh, Primaris Marines, this weapon, that weapon, it's like, or that kind of thing. Like if you're a little bit engaged already, I think you'll have a better time with it.
Yep. Okay, we just got to move on. We're running out of time. Next up, we're going to talk about Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Unfortunately, I missed the first beta weekend because I was at home for Labor Day weekend, seeing the family and the friends for a couple days. However, I got to jump in on it this weekend, and I did play a ton. I only got to play for 2 days. I got to level 25 or 26, I think. I think they had a level 30 cap on the beta, and I got to level 25. Now, one thing I will say is that they did not change it up much as the weekend went on. I saw IGN posted footage of Warzone and Zombies. I never saw either one of those available for play. I don't know how I ended up playing competitive multiplayer pretty much the entire time. There was 5 modes available, and none of them were all that groundbreaking. There was Team Deathmatch, there was Domination, there was a variant on VIP where the VIP changes every couple minutes or whatever. And then there was Gun Game, which everybody knows already from prior Call of Duty. So the modes I got to play weren't all that different from what I've been playing, but actually playing the game to me was the biggest revelation and the biggest change. Obviously, the one thing everyone's talking about with this game is the omnidirectional movement. What I will actually say about that is that I didn't really notice much of a difference. It is omnidirectional. Once you're on the ground, you can move left, right, back, forward, and you can dive in different directions, forward, back, both sides. But as somebody who's played a lot of Call of Duty, and I didn't really dive into it, and I do recommend going through the tutorial that explains how it works, I just kind of said F it and just played Call of Duty the way I always played it, and I was fine. Matt, again, I don't know what it is about Treyarch's Call of Duty games, but I just own in Treyarch's Call of Duty games. My KD in this is 1.6. I don't understand it. I feel like there's something in their net code. The way they code their net code is different. When I play every other Call of Duty, I can tell that when I'm firing, I'm not getting the right feedback from my guns. There's a lag, there's a delay there. When I play any of Treyarch's Call of Duty games, I never feel like I'm getting punished by my connection. I fire it, the hit detection stuff feels perfect, and I just rule. The last Black Ops, Black Ops Cold War? I had a 1.7 KD in that game. I have a 1.6 in this game. Last year's Call of Duty, I had a 1.1. Any other Call of Duty, I'm around 1. Treyarch's Call of Duties, I don't know what it is, man. It is so bizarre. I just own in Treyarch's games. I don't know why. But I didn't even use the movement system in this, the new one, hardly at all. And I got along just fine. Now, I'll say this. There was a couple instances where you have those head-to-head clashes, and that happens in Call of Duty all the time. A lot of times, if you have 2 equal players, whoever wins those is the person with the better connection. In this, you have an advantage if you use, the movement system. They come into a room, and they're head-to-head. They dive immediately. Sometimes it kills them, because I just shoot, and they'll slide, right into my line of fire, and I'll kill them. Sometimes they dive to the side, and by the time I spin, I'm already dead. So there is a layer of skill there for the people who are really good at Call of Duty and make it this the only game they play. Those people, I think, will be delighted more with the omnidirectional movement than players like me who like Call of Duty, but it's not my whole identity, so to speak. So the big movement stuff, to me, didn't make that much of a difference. The other stuff that made a bigger difference, it has a pick 5 system. They started doing this with the last couple Call of Duties. It got to a pick 10, where you have 10 attachments on your gun. It's a pick 5 in this one. And it makes you use attachments you probably would never use in a pick 10 system. You have to be very picky about it. Now, to be fair, eventually there's a perk, I think, that gives you 3 more attachments, so it gets you to 8. But you have to burn one of your perks in order to do that. So there's a give and take to it. So they're starting to dial back, having this gun that has 50 things on it, like it was in Call of Duty for 6 or 7 years straight. You have to be a little bit more thoughtful now with how you handle your gun and how you set things up. But otherwise, I was kind of surprised how little this played differently from other Call of Duties. I really thought this was going to be a massive overhaul, a huge change. I thought I was going to feel like a fish out of water playing it and not be able to manage, and people were going to mop me up. Because the other thing, too, is that, people have been playing this for a weekend before me. I jumped in week 2. Usually that's a death sentence, but I was just rolling people. Like, I had no problem. My KD literally was 1.6 after I played it for a couple days, and other people had played it already for a weekend and had already maxed out and hit the level cap. So, to me, the new changes to it didn't make that much of a difference. Like, I felt like it still played pretty much like a Call of Duty game. But again, you do have an advantage if you do learn the omnidirectional stuff. So every loadout comes with a mandatory melee, so you don't have to like choose between a pistol or a melee weapon. So you start out with the knife, and eventually you get other things, but it's always a part. You have 3 perks plus a specialty bonus. So the way the perks work this time is that they're in different categories, like recon or whatever. And if you choose 3 perks that are in the same class, you get a bonus. So if you choose all 3 recon perks, you get like a 4th bonus perk. And that can make a huge difference. But me, personally, I like to mix and match my perks. I only rolled with, like, the bonus for a little bit before I switch back because I liked Ghost or whatever. There's some perks in Call of Duty I'm just always going to use, and I don't care whatever category that they're in. As far as the score streaks are concerned, they're very tame and I thought very boring. There's a local radar. There was the RXD car, the little remote control car that you can drive, which Treyarch's known for. There was a UAV, a counter UAV, a watchdog helicopter, Hellstorm missiles, an interceptor jet squadron, and a chopper gunner. And that was it. And I don't know if there's going to be more in the final game, but that's all that was in this beta. There was no care package. And that's a big deal for me personally, because I'm pretty good at Call of Duty, but I never get like 20 kill score streaks. Like maybe once in 3 months I'll get one or something. And so the care package is nice because it gives you a chance to sample some of the stuff you would normally never have access to. It was not in the beta. I don't know if it's going to be in the final game, but it was not in the beta. And so I didn't get to sample a lot of the crazier kill streaks like I normally do. And to be fair, like care packages, they don't give you the big score streaks that often. Like 1 out of every 25 care packages will give you a really good one or whatever. So, but you still get to try it. And so removing the care package out of this, I think that's a mistake, and I hope they fix it and they eventually put it back into the game. There were 5 maps to play in. There was a couple. This was one of the more memorable ones. This one takes place at a strip mall. This footage that you're seeing right now. There was another one called Derelict that takes place in a derelict old like railroad station with a bunch of old rickety rail cars that you can run through and hide behind. But most of the maps, I didn't really find them to be all that cool or different or memorable. But the one thing I will say is that unlike last year's game, this game is shipping with all new maps. If you remember, last year's game shipped with all old maps that they had redone. And so it's harder to make new maps that are memorable after they've made like 1,000 Call of Duty maps at this point. So, what else do I have to say? There was 2 other maps that they had, aside from the ones I talked about, that were set up for smaller modes. Like they're called face-off maps. So some of the modes that are like tighter and they want to get people together to fight more close quarters, they have specific maps just for that. Again, I didn't get to play zombies. I didn't get to play Warzone, so I can't say much about that. One of the new gameplay elements, in addition to the omnidirectional stuff, is this hostage meat shield thing where enemies can come up from behind you instead of assassinating you like they usually do. They can take you up and hold you hostage and then use the gun. Completely pointless, completely stupid. It slows down the game for you, the person who's being held hostage. Like, I would just rather get killed so I can get back in the fight, and it slows down the person trying to kill you. I don't really understand the purpose of it. Like, under what conditions in Call of Duty would you want to hold somebody hostage? I mean, you can use them as a meat shield, so you're harder to kill.
Am I supposed to care whether or not I'm about to shoot my teammate there or not?
I don't understand the whole idea behind it. And I wouldn't be surprised if they actually remove it for the final game at all, because it doesn't happen very often. Because if you're the person that's coming up behind somebody, why would you want to take them hostage instead of just killing them? I don't understand it, and I don't get it. I think that might be something that they end up taking out of the final game. But I think in general, I would just say, like, field upgrades. So it's like your special in this, and it has been in Call of Duty for a while. The worst. I did not care about any of the field upgrades in this. You got like the thing that can you can put on the ground, and it takes away, like if someone tries to throw a grenade, it'll zap the grenade. It has like a thing you can throw down so people can refill their ammo. None of it is fun or exciting. And again, maybe that's something that'll come with the final game, the fun stuff. But as far as being in the beta, I was really disappointed in all of the field upgrades as well. So score streaks, field upgrades, boring, not very interesting. And then the changes that they made to movement and combat, not as effective as you think. So what it all boils down to is that it's just another solid Call of Duty game that I'm actually good at. So I will play a little longer than I did last year because I can actually compete in this one without getting my ass kicked. But generally, like, if you like Black Ops, Treyarch's, Call of Duty games, you're probably going to like this. If you're maybe scared off because you thought it was going to be this drastic change from what you're used to, don't be scared. It really isn't. It's there for people who want to push and get just that little edge. But for people like me who just enjoy playing Call of Duty, running around, shooting fake enemies, it didn't really affect me at all. And again, my KD in this was like a 1.6, so it didn't affect my performance all that much either. So, that's Call of Duty Black Ops 6, the multiplayer. Again, I spent 2 days playing it hardcore. I got to level mid-20s. Didn't quite get to the level cap. But I pretty much had unlocked all the stuff that I wanted to try out before I came and talked to you guys about it. So I had a lot of fun with it. I think always your enjoyment of a Call of Duty or any shooter is going to be directly proportional to how good or bad you are at it. And I think a lot of times people are like, I hate that game because you're getting your ass kicked. I'm guilty of it too. In this in particular game, I was kicking everybody else's ass, and so I like it a little bit more. I think that's just human nature. But again, I think if you have liked Treyarch's Call of Duty Black Ops games in the past, you're probably going to like this one too. And then the campaign they just announced today is not going to be early access for anybody. So you can't pay more money to play it early. You're not going to be able to play it early on Game Pass, which to me is like, F you, man. Like, what am I paying for Game Pass for then? Like, I don't know. To me, it's like if you're not going to make it exclusive to Game Pass, at least give the people on Game Pass a campaign a day early or something. Like, give us a bone, man. Like, we're giving you this money, like, all year long. Like, I don't know.
Presumably, you're giving them the money for other things than just Call of Duty. Though,
right.
So.
It just rubs me the wrong way. Like, because every other publisher will let you pay to play the game early. Activision says, we're not going to do that, and we're not going to let the people who are our best customers play it early either, even though we own the game. I just thought that was a little odd. But otherwise, it's another quality Call of Duty release. At least the multiplayer is. Like, nothing. I've been playing Call of Duty a long time. There's nothing in there that I experienced where I was like, oh, that's going to piss people off. Or, oh, that's a deal breaker. Or, oh, that's going to ruin matches. Like, I didn't come across any red flags playing it at all. It is really fast. Like, you probably could see that from the B-roll. Like, you can sprint way faster. Like, it was funny. I got a perk that was supposed to increase my sprint. And the sprint was already so ridiculous, I couldn't even tell when I had the perk. Like, you can literally sprint like Carl Lewis the whole time. Like, you never get tired. So it is faster, maybe, than prior Call of Duties, but I didn't have a problem with it. I adjusted very quickly and played just fine. So, Erebus Jones asks, it's like teabagging it for humiliation. I played both weekends. I saw it happen once. So he's talking about the meat shield stuff, yeah. You're right. I think it really is more of like a humiliation thing. So maybe it's one of those things where you murk somebody, you don't care, you go on about your business, but it really bothered that person, and they start hunting you down. Like, I've noticed sometimes when I play Call of Duty or even like Rocket League, like, I'll do something like awesome, or like where I'll just like wipe out the whole team in Call of Duty, or I'll score 5 goals in a row in Rocket League or whatever, and like, I don't think anything of it. I just go about my way, and then like 3 weeks later, I'll see on the dashboard that I have like messages waiting, and I'll go check those messages, and it is people losing their shit.
Yeah, you get that in fighting games.
Oh, you thought you murked me, but I came back and shot you in the back of the head. I didn't even know that they came back and shot me. It's so freaking hilarious. Oh, you thought you scored a nice goal, then I came back and scored a better one. And I'm just like, okay, buddy, whatever. I don't even remember you. It's so hilarious how people get wrapped up in this shit. But anyway, that's Call of Duty Black Ops 6. It is coming to everything still. It is still coming to like PS4 and Xbox One. I just think Microsoft just can't quit those platforms yet. But I had a good time with the multiplayer. I played it all weekend long. When it ended, I had to do a bunch of pre-production for this show last night. I got it done, and I was like, oh, I can go in and get another match. Nope, it was gone, and I was kind of disappointed. And that's usually a good sign when you go to play something and it's not there, and you're like bummed. That means you were enjoying it, and I was enjoying it. So I had fun with the multiplayer. We'll see how the campaign shakes out. We'll see how the zombies shake out. We'll see how Warzone ultimately is with all the tweaks that Treyarch may do to it. But at least initially, one of the most important cogs of a Call of Duty release is pretty okay so far. Demon says, sorry, I have to disagree with you. I hate the practice of charging more to play early. That's not what I was talking about. No, I was saying, like, if they're going to do that, then they should give us the game on Game Pass because we've been paying it. Or maybe it's like such a thing where like if you've subscribed to Game Pass for 6 months, you have a 6-month streak going, then you can play it early. Like they can figure out things to do.
Paying $15 for the month instead of $70 for a game I don't want is good enough for me. I don't really care what day they give it to me.
Yeah, well, some people do. I mean, some people want to play. It's Call of Duty. It's going to sell 25 million copies.
But it's just the campaign, and most people don't even play that. So.
They do, but it's over in like half a day or whatever. So, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. But I just feel like this is a big moment for Microsoft, Activision, Call of Duty, and I don't feel like they're handling it with the way that they should be. I don't feel like they're celebrating it, and they're not. I don't think people know.
They were tied up in court with it so long, I imagine they don't want to draw much attention to it.
It is possible. That could be part of it, for sure.
But anyway. They'll celebrate it in 5 years and the contract's up and they can do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah. Yeah, for the record, I also hate paying money to play games early. I was not saying that at all. It is weird how we say stuff on this show and it gets completely misconstrued. Like, all the time. It happens with me all the time. People hear you say one thing and they extrapolate your mind out. They're like, well, if you believe this and you believe that, and no, I said what I meant. Like, just listen to what I say. Don't try to guess what I'm actually thinking. Just listen to what I say. That's all you got to do. So anyway, that's Black Ops 6. It's coming pretty soon. I think the betas are done now. I don't think there's another one. So normally I'd be like, wait for next weekend and you can play too. But I think that's it. You're going to take my word for it that the multiplayer was pretty freaking good. Okay. And with that, it's time for our New York Sneaker Society Sneaker of the Week. What's up, everyone? Shane here, and one thing you may not realize about me is that I am a total sneakerhead. That's right. I've been collecting Nike sneakers since the early 90s. My favorites are Air Max 95 and Air Max 97. Now, one thing that's different about me from your typical sneakerhead is that I actually wear the sneakers. And because of that, they can get dirty. And that is where New York Sneaker Society comes in. Using their advanced shoe cleaning products, I turned an old pair of Nikes that looked like this into this. With their cleaning products, your sneaker life can go from a year to 5 or more. I know that. I have shoes that are like 30 years old that I still wear because I've cleaned them. You can also lower your carbon footprint, by keeping your kicks looking fresh. For my daily drivers, I also appreciate New York Sneaker Society's Refresh Spray to keep them smelling great and staying crisp. Head to nysneakersociety.co/sifted to clean your shoes like a pro at home and get 10% off your order. That's right, that's nysneakersociety.co/sifted for 10% off. That's right, people, go to nysneakersociety.co/sifted. Make sure you use that URL because you don't get 10% off, you get 15% off. Another anecdote of New York Sneaker Society products. Before I left for my vacation for Labor Day, I went into the bathroom, I pulled out a couple wipes, I cleaned up my shoes were looking awesome. I went into my draft, people were asking me about my sneakers. Go to nysneakersociety.co/sifted, get yourself at least the wipes, at least the spray. Takes like 5 minutes. I just leave the wipes on the counter of my bathroom sink, and they're just there. When my shoes start getting dirty and nasty, I pull out one of the wipes, and one wipe cleans both of the shoes, and there's a stack of like 80 of them in there. So again, go to nysneakersociety.co/sifted, get yourself some gear to keep your shoes looking fresh and crisp. And with this sponsorship, we like to talk about one of the smaller games that was resonating with you guys over the last week. And I'll say this, it was hard to find one. There was not a lot of smaller games coming through the channels this week. And oddly enough, the game that really resonated with you guys was a game called Shadow of the Ninja. It is an old NES cooperative hack and slash. Many people would argue maybe the best cooperative game of the era. It was cooperative for 2 players. They have completely
era being
the NES era.
I think that would be Ninja Turtles arcade game.
Was that on the NES?
Yeah.
I forgot that, actually. This is one of them, though. It was up there. This is in the hierarchy of cooperative
It didn't look
games.
like this.
Well, they completely redone everything. As you can see, the music, the graphics, they've even redone some levels to make them make more sense in 2024. It came out already, in fact. It came out on the 29th, so it's out there. It's available for pretty much every platform. It's $20 right now. If you're looking for a great old-school 2D hack and slash to play with a friend, this is a great choice. Again, it is called Shadow of the Ninja Reborn. It is a 34-year-old game. It has been 34 years since this game came out. And to Matt's point, it looked a lot worse than this when it came out on the NES. Obviously, the NES is not capable of anything close to this visually.
No,
so,
this is not. I mean, everything's completely barely. There's two people who are ninjas.
Yeah,
that's basically the.
That's it. So anyway, that is your pick, and it is your pick. I look at the data on our website to figure out what you guys are watching, what you guys are interacting with, and that is your pick for the New York Sneaker Society Sneaker of the Week for GameFace episode 402. And with that, we have one more game I'm going to talk about very quickly because it doesn't need to be discussed for very long, and that is Harry Potter Quidditch Champions. It is, if you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber, it is free right now for you. If you're not a PlayStation Plus subscriber, it is available on every platform, even Switch, and it is $30. It is exactly what you think it is. It is a game based entirely upon, is it Quidditch or Quidditch? Quidditch. I never can say that right. That's all there is. There's no plot. There's no story. They try to create some semblance of whatever around the matches. Like, you have, like, your Hogwarts matches, and you play against separate houses and stuff like that. But those are all that quote-unquote story is told with weird stills. It really is just a competitive Quidditch game, and not a very good one. It is basically Rocket League if it were trash, I guess is the best way I could put it. My biggest problem with this game, one, is just very simple. You basically have pass and shoot options in turbo, and that's pretty much it. But the big problem with this game is that, unlike Rocket League, you cannot turn on something that will let you follow the ball. What's the ball called?
The quaffle.
The quaffle. That'll just follow the quaffle. There's a button that you can hold, and you can follow the quaffle, but it won't just do it automatically. And anyone who plays Rocket League and knows Rocket League, you leave the camera locked onto the ball at all times. Like, the only time I ever turn it off is if I want to destroy somebody, literally. Like, if I just want to go after someone and, like, take them out. Otherwise, I always play with the ball cam on. That's what this game needs, because the ball, the quaffle or whatever, flies around so quickly and so erratically that you just can't keep track of it. And so I just found all the time I was just, like, flying in circles, like, oh, the ball's over there, and oh, now it's over here, oh, now it's all the way to the other end. It doesn't, I feel like they have not found a way to make this quote-unquote sport work inside a video game.
No, well, I mean, you're partially up against the wall where the sport doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Because it is like you have 3 goals you can throw it through.
There's 3 goals. There's the quaffle. There's the bludgers, which are the 2 projectile weapons, and then there's the golden snitch, where if somebody catches that, the game's just over.
It pretty much is over. And in this, it's like that way too. So you get 10 points for scoring a goal. I think if you get that, if you catch the, what's it called again?
The golden snitch is 150 points.
Well, in this, I think it's 50.
Okay.
They lower it, but still, if you catch it, you pretty much won the match.
It's been a long time since I read these.
Yeah. If you catch
but the rules change between books sometimes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Or there's some things added. Like, she was a very responsive writer in the sense that someone would say, this doesn't make sense. And then, like, 2 books from then, there'd be some ham-handed explanation. It's like, oh, doesn't time travel mean that all this stuff doesn't make sense? And, like, 2 books later, it's like, oh, somebody smashed the whole shelf of time travel devices, and no one can ever time travel
again. She's taking notes.
It's just like, all right, I guess that's one way to do that.
But this game is very much like that. So you have the 3
different
different
It feels like you'd require so much control and awareness in 3D space that, like, I don't know how you do that in a game. And, like, I mean, at least Rocket League, you're on the ground for the most part, like, until you are intentionally in the air.
In the air, right.
Whereas this is there's always a Z-axis to worry about in Quidditch.
Oh, yeah. And there's some small nuance to the game. Like, you just saw there, like, you can bump into people and you can take the ball. If you play a certain position, you can spawn turbo rings, basically, down the pitch. So people on your team, they can go through those rings and build a bunch of speed and then try to score. There's a very specific goalie position in this where the controls completely change and you play goalie. And it's like they allow you to kind of teleport between, like, the 3 different goals. But still, playing goal in this is so hard. Like, you can fly straight at a ring, and you can fool the computer every time with this. Fly straight at a ring, have your reticle on that ring, and at the last minute turn and fight into another, they'll never stop it. Ever. They're just not fast enough. And humans aren't fast enough to either. Like, I just found you could kind of just, like, cheese your way through the game. Once I started to get it, I was behind in one match by, like, 100 points, and everything just kind of clicked all at once, and I literally scored, like, 8 goals in 20 seconds and won the match. And that's when I was like, okay, like this thing needs some tweaking.
I mean, this thing seems to purely exist as a prototype for putting Quidditch in Hogwarts Legacy 2.
That's exactly what it feels like. Yeah, I would not buy this game for $30. If you are a PlayStation Plus subscriber and you're a big Harry Potter fan, download it. I think it's only like 15 gigs or something like that. If you're a Harry Potter fan,
that's crazy. This looks like a mobile game.
It kind of is, yeah. But even that is like, even if you're a Harry Potter fan, like I feel like you play a few matches of this, you'll be like, I get it. Like it would have been.
They've never really figured out. I mean, the EA Quidditch wasn't very. It
wasn't
good
either.
It's just. I don't. It's a stupid, weird, whimsical little British fantasy like children's book game that is fine for what it is in the book. Like, that's all it needs to be. It needs to be the sport they play that isn't soccer.
Yeah.
That, like, because Harry Potter is actually a jock.
Yeah.
Who doesn't care about school, which is weird because it's like, dude, your school is learning how to cast fireball. You couldn't keep me away from that shit.
Seriously.
Like, it's
Why
annoying.
would you want to do anything else?
But like,
there's the rings I was talking about.
But basically, it's just got to serve the purpose in the plot and be weird and goofy enough to like fit the world.
Yeah.
And it does.
It's
but
like
you try
a
to make an
minigame.
actual fair competitive video game out of it, and it fucking falls apart. It's like,
if it had been like a mini game inside Hogwarts Legacy, I'd have been like, okay. Like, you play it 3 times.
It's like if they made a Star Wars game that was only Sabacc.
Right.
Like, no one cares.
Yeah.
Or like Dejeric, the chess game that Chewbacca yells about in the first movie. Like, if you made a whole game of just that, that would be kind of weird. And it probably wouldn't work very well because it wasn't designed to be an actual game. It's just a thing that's supposed to be there as part of the world.
Yep. I am not a gigantic Harry Potter fan. I appreciate it. And it wasn't enough to make me want to play this game more than like an hour.
I read them at the time; they were hot, and because they were the thing. And I'm like, okay, all right. I thought the first few are kind of, goofy, whimsical, charming little British children's literature sort of things, and then apparently they tried to grow up with the audience, and the last few are just sort of dumb. They want to be serious and want to try to get darker, and they just all come off as ridiculous.
Yep.
And who cares?
This game's going to come and go in a whimper, and the only way you'll ever remember it is because we just talked about it on GameFace 402. And that'll be it. I think there's one review on the internet for this game right now. Like, it has no traction, and it's just being sent out to die, basically. It should be free to play. This should have been free to play all along. Trying to charge $30 for this is a joke. Putting it on PlayStation Plus for free was very smart. That might give it a chance, but once people play it, it won't. So, Harry Potter, Quidditch Champions, Vaporware, basically, here today, gone tomorrow. Nobody will miss it tomorrow. I played it for an hour. I got everything out of it I needed. I would not recommend that you waste your time doing the same, and that's what we're here for.
Probably lasts more than 11 days, though.
What?
This.
It will, yeah. Just because it's on PlayStation Plus all month, it'll at least make it 30 days, which is crazy to think about. Like, Concord, vastly superior to this game. It's just a different level of quality standards.
Cost a bit less.
A lot less to develop for sure. But anyway, there you go. That's Harry Potter Quidditch Champions. And before we go, as always, we have one more thing to do, and of course, that is That's right. It's time for Name That Game, where I show you 5 screenshots from a video game, and you try to guess the name of the game before Matt Keil. A couple things before we get going. If you have won this year, do not play. You can only win once every calendar year. Number 2, if you do not like PC games, or you do not know someone who likes PC games, please do not play, because when you win a free PC game, and that has turned into a bit of a pain. Because it's like I have to go through these multiple steps. I have to reach out, or they reach out to me and say they won. Then I have to get their Steam ID. And then I have to add them as a friend, and they have to accept me as a friend, and then I have to look at their Steam library to see what games they have already to make sure that I'm not getting them something that they already have. And some of you guys have insane Steam libraries, literally like hundreds and hundreds of games, and it's very hard to find a game for you guys sometimes. It's pretty crazy. But anyway, make sure you play PC games. And then the third thing is that the chat goes into slow mode, which means you can only input one chat every 60 seconds. Make sure you make them count. Nothing is worse than whenever I put up a screenshot and you know what it is and you go to type it in and you can't type anything in yet. So make sure you use your choices wisely. And with that, I think we're ready. Are you ready, Matt?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me get the sound effects queued up here. And we are ready. The first screenshot for Name That Game in 3, 2, 1, go! Can you name the ground texture? I'll give you a little bit of a hint there in the bottom right, but pretty much just a ground texture. E.T. the Extraterrestrial, no. Body Harvest, no. Emperor Dread, someday. Witcher 2, no. Red Dead Redemption 2, no. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, no. Red Dead 2, Red Dead 2s, nope. Far Cry 6, no. Looking at the grass, I can see where you might have picked that one. Metal Gear Solid 5, no. Any other guesses? Uncharted 4, no. Going once. Going twice. Okay, we'll go on to image 2, and here it is in 3, 2, 1. Go! Big hints there. Big hints there.
Forza Horizon 5?
No, but that's a really good guess.
Forza Horizon 4?
No. I wouldn't do that. We have a winner. Or no, we don't. No, we do.
What?
It's Dead Island 2. Someone put Dead Rising 2, and at first I was fooled, thinking they were correct, but they're not. Mitchell Ness then got it with Dead Island 2. Congratulations! Awesome job, Mitchell Ness. You're a great supporter of the site and the show. Always good to see when people like you win. Here's another round of applause. You're here every week watching live. Congratulations, Mitchell. You know how to get a hold of me. You can DM me on Sifted at Shane. You can DM us here on Twitch, twitch.tv/SiftedGames. You can DM me on Twitter at Dinfire. You can DM Sifted on Twitter at SiftedGames. Get at me and make sure you include let's cut a step out here. Make sure when you reach out to me, you include your Steam ID. That'll remove a step so I can add you as a friend like right away. It'll make it easier. But congratulations. JM Rain, thank you for subscribing with Twitch Prime right here at the end of the show. We appreciate it. Black Library 40K, I'm confused. Oh, Erebus Jones says that Warhammer has its own publishing arm called the Black Library. Did you know that?
Probably heard it. I don't know.
I did not, actually.
If I haven't really emphasized how much of a casual, slight attention payer to Warhammer I am, I don't know what else to say. Like, I do not care about all that. I'm not going to spend time reading. I read the one book, and that was enough.
All right. Fair enough. Well, that's going to do it for GameFace 402. Thanks to everybody who showed up on chat. We'll be back rocking every Tuesday right here at twitch.tv/SiftedGames for the foreseeable future. We are kind of into Q4 now. Like, this month, good games every week. October, insane games every week. Now November.
October's Q4.
Yeah. November's kind of slow, relatively speking, to most Novembers.
Good, because no one's going to be able to afford it after they spend $700 or $800 on a PS5 Pro.
That's probably true. Before we go, as always, I want to remind everybody, see down below, right below me here, that's how we get paid. That's how this keeps happening. Go to patreon.com/sifted, that's SIFTD, and give us a pledge for $4 a month. You get all our content early. You get this show 4 days early. You get Pactor Factor 7 days early. You get all our other content at least 3 days early. We really try to provide value to our patrons here at Sifted. I've noticed some patrons now are like, you get a day of exclusivity and then it goes out to everybody. We don't do that. We make sure that we hook up our patrons. We make it worth your while to subscribe for sure. If you don't have any money, and as I always say, I understand it because I have been broke in my life many times before, you can still help us in myriad ways. You can review the show on whatever podcast system you're listening to the show on. You can like the show on YouTube. Make sure you leave a comment on YouTube, no matter how dumb it is. Just yo, I don't care what you put in there. All of it helps us. Also, by the way, our last couple episodes of our show has done like way more views. I don't know if part of it is like the graphics change and everything, but like an extra 1,000 views on YouTube for the last couple episodes. Let's keep it going. And I think a lot of that is you guys liking the show on YouTube and leaving a comment, is getting put into people's feeds And I fully believe if more people experience GameFace, they're going to keep watching it. They just are. Like I said, it's our goal to make the best gaming podcast in the world. That is the goal of this show. So I did appreciate some of the feedback that you guys gave me when I asked last time for feedback. Some of it was great. Also, by the way, the saga of the white chat versus the dark mode chat goes on. A bunch of you guys reached out trying to help. None of it worked. We are already in dark mode. I can go to Twitch and click our icon and go down there, and the dark mode is turned on. When I use Twitch, like to upload videos and stuff, it's in dark mode. It does not carry over to the pop-out chat. So
you'd have to put a mod into the web browser that makes everything dark.
That's crazy. That's not happening, unfortunately. That's not going to happen. I see people asking stuff for Q&A, but unfortunately, we're out of time here, so we can't do Q&A. Maybe for next week's episode when there aren't as many games. But, man, we loaded it up for this episode. This is a good episode of GameFace, I think. Always great to talk about a game that both Matt and I really love as well. I really enjoy doing that. So, again, go to patreon.com/SIFTD. If you can't do that, help us out with comments, likes, reviews of the show on podcast services, or you can still give us money if you subscribe to Amazon Prime. Just go down below if you're on YouTube. Our patrons already know how to do it. If you're on YouTube, go down below for the step-by-step instructions. It's very easy to do. Once you hook it up, it literally takes you 3 seconds every month to give us a free $2.50. It's free if you're already subscribing with Amazon Prime, so please learn how to do it. Again, it won't cost you anything, and you can help us out and make sure this show keeps on going. So, Matt, good to see you, brother. Definitely good to be back in the saddle again. Good to be doing GameFace again. And we'll see you guys next Tuesday. GameFace is up and out.